All right here. Excellent. Yeah, search QI in the chat. Let me get this show rolling here since we're on a time limit.
Absolutely.
So first of all, welcome everybody to another year of Job Board Con with myself and Serge Bourgeot from Resume Wallet, our sponsor for today's show. So shout out to them, resumewallet.com, CV Wallet, and we're going to ask Serge about more about that in a few minutes. But yeah, back for another year of the business of job boards. Again, the fifth year we're doing this, and definitely a trying year for last couple years. Been a trying year for many job boards out there, particularly the big guys. The niche ones, the niche ones out there are still doing okay. Challenges definitely in the industry, but I think we're holding our own here as far as that goes. And it's one of the things I've learned, Serge, I'm sure you have as well, is that job boards ebb and flow with the economy, right? So it's
Yes.
about riding those waves and preparing yourself for the downturns because they always come inevitably. And that's something that as a job board owner, you have to prepare for. And I think that folks at like ZipRecruiter maybe didn't prepare for that and Indeed and things like that. So we'll,
Well, on that note, I'm really curious of obviously being in Canada, we're seeing quite a bit of effect of potential tariffs, and uh, that's been causing some pause with a lot of employers here in Canada when it comes to posting jobs. I'm curious from the American overseas audience as far as how are they feeling? Is there a little bit of a pause with uncertainty of actually posting jobs, waiting until there's a little bit more certainty in the market? Because uncertainty is the biggest challenge when it comes to job boards, when it comes to hiring. No one is going to start hiring like crazy if there's a potential major impact to the economy or something that's coming up. So I'm curious how people are dealing with the current situation right now.
yeah, that's the one thing I'm worried about is just this uncertainty in the economy, right? Employers are hesitant and it's not good, for sales, put it that way. So hopefully, as the year goes on, maybe tariffs will go away. Maybe I'm hoping. I don't know. If we make enough noise here in the U.S., maybe I'll stop that crap. But
I'm counting on you, Chris. I'm counting on you.
I'll do my
You
part. Sorry, I'll do my part.
reach out to Mr. Trump and see what you
Yes,
can do.
representing the job world. And we're also joined by Brian Fox. He's going to just listen in and stuff. Hey, Brian, good to see you, man. All right, Tim Deneen's here. Hey, Tim. All right, Sheila Jordan, Mike Paradise from Fine Overnight Job. Oh, that's interesting, Mike. I years ago I launched a site for night jobs. I forget what I called it. Night job something, whatever. I thought that was an interesting niche. So maybe I'll have to check that site out later on. All right.
Can I ask what type of night jobs, or I'm assuming it's appropriate?
Yeah. Yeah, if you think about that, like there are like night jobs out there, right? And
Yes, yes.
that's a
Legal
niche
ones. Love it. Yes. Perfect.
for those night owls. All right, here. All right, let's start the program here. Um, so here's the agenda for today: 6 30-minute sessions. Session one, intros, ask me anything. We'll get into that in a minute. Session two, LinkedIn growth strategies. I'll be talking about a bunch of different ways to grow your LinkedIn pages essentially and drive traffic. Session three will be our first interview, our only interview of the day, which will be prospecting and selling to employers. That's with Sean Horton. He's a veteran sales guy in the job board space. Session four, should you start your site with a community site? That's a perspective I have as well
Mm.
that we'll talk about, some different community software. Session five, how to monetize job seekers. And session six, which is new, 3 ways I'd fix ZipRecruiter. So Amy from Job Logistics had an emergency. She couldn't make it. So I had an article ready to go this week for ZipRecruiter and how I'd fix it. Instead, I'm going to talk about that and publish the article next week. So I think it'll be an interesting way to wrap up the event today. So we'll go from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. and we'll get rolling. A few reminders. Let's see here. I skipped that. A few things. This event will be recorded. You can watch it later on. I'm also going to put it on YouTube eventually. A few guests will join us throughout. Um, Join my community. If you haven't joined yet, pro.jobboardsecrets.com. And join is free, or you can pay to be a premium member as well to see premium content. But I am pushing more of my audience to that platform. I want you guys to engage with each other. You can message each other on there. And I'm going to do more, I think, events and videos and stuff like that on the platform going forward in 2025. So definitely go join there if you haven't yet. And a lot of you have. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/jobboardsecrets. Again, I put those links in the chat for everybody to take advantage of. Just a quick shout out to my current advertisers, Aspen Tech Labs, Right C, Arthur Job Board Software, Jobico, and Smart Job Board overall. So shout out to you guys. All right, let's get into the links are on top of the chat there, Andre. Just go scroll back up there and you can get a link to the slides, a link to the membership site, and a link to the YouTube page as well. Yep, go by the top of the chat there. Just scroll up, you'll see the links. All
Oh,
right.
Chris, it might not be there because it was sent to hosts
Oh,
and panelists.
okay.
So I
Yeah,
would put it back in if you have it handy there.
that's a good catch there, Serge. So let me do
Oh,
that.
that's why I'm here. Keep
Yes,
you in line.
exactly. Right. I need that co-host. So two heads are better than one, as they say. Okay, one more. Let's see. We got the YouTube
I
channel.
think you sent it to hosts and panelists
Ah,
again.
damn it. All right, here, everyone, check that off. Let's try
There
this
you
again.
go. There you
There-
go. We'll get you sorted here.
Thank you, Serge. I need that help. I need that help. Yeah, running an event like this is confusing for one guy. So they got so you see the pro and you got the slides. Now you need the YouTube channel here. Let's get that. So hit that subscribe button. I've been busy preparing for this show, so I definitely want to get a lot more video content out there as well on the YouTube channel and on the membership site. So stay tuned for more. I'm also going to be updating my ebooks this year. I've updated a few of them, but they definitely need some updating as well. Yes, you can have recording to the access later. I'll email that out to the attendees and stuff like that. So Zoom should be recording all this stuff. All right, here, Serge. Ask me anything. Okay, this is your chance, guys, to ask me anything. So get your questions ready. But first, let's meet Serge Boudreau, my co-host for the day. Serge, introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate being here and having an audience like this that's involved in the job board community. So to give you a little bit of background, I've been in the TA space for around 25 years, a little less than 25 years, and half of that time has been spent in the job board world. So I was a TA leader for some large organizations here in Canada. Then I went over to Workopolis, worked 8-9 years at Workopolis with Sylvie, that is right now on the call. She's now at Job Illico. I've also worked at Indeed and Career Beacon, which is a job board here in Canada. And now I am the chief revenue officer at a company called Resume Wallet that's sponsoring this event. I'll go a little bit more what we were doing at Resume Wallet, but it's really an honor to be here with you, Chris. And I'm a big fan of this world. I've lived it for a long time, so I'm hoping I get to learn a bunch of stuff today too.
Awesome. Well, you and I are kindred spirits there. And yeah, tell us more about how Resume Wallet helps job boards as well.
Yeah, so Resume Wallet has been around 4 years, and we've pivoted a couple of times. I think everyone on this call can relate a little bit to it. Initially, when Resume Wallet was born, we were doing candidate verification. It's basically a job seeker app, but we were doing candidate verification through the blockchain. And obviously, that was a challenge. And in 2022, when we really saw AI take place, we changed our business model, and what we're focused on right now is pre-verification and qualifications before they actually go through the application process. We work with job boards as part of delivering what we're doing is we have a large network of job board providers that is helping us drive traffic to our clients. Our clients are generally programmatic or advertising agencies that are dealing directly with clients. We have simplified it for job boards because one of the biggest concerns or challenges that I had working at job boards is getting feeds from other providers. It was like you get a feed of 1 million jobs, and you have to spend a lot of time going through those feeds and figuring out what fits your board, especially if you're a niche job board. So we have created what we call ETFs. So anyone in the finance world is very familiar with ETFs, so electronic transferred funds. In our case, it's feeds. So we curate our feeds based on industry, sector, niche, also on CPA pricing. So you can just subscribe to the feed that you're looking for, and we deliver high value or high quality jobs to you. As far as how we verify our candidates, we have built technology. So say I'm going to use the example of a dental hygienist. We actually can verify that they have their dental hygienist license before they go through the application process. Initially, we were charging on a cost per qualified applicant model to our clients. Uh, we quickly realized that even though, and I think a lot of you have probably felt this pain, everyone wants quality. And when we're talking about end employers, but not everyone wants to pay for it. And many actually don't want to pay more than what they're paying right now. So we have built something that we can deliver those quality candidates at the same cost per applicant pricing that they would anywhere else. So that's what we're
Awesome.
doing at Resident Wallet right now. I
Mm.
think I mentioned most of our team is based in the UK, but we're definitely focused on the US and Canada market.
All right. Oh, Canada.
Old Canada.
Yep. Awesome. All right, audience, what's on your mind today? Ask me questions here. This is your chance to ask me anything. Is there anything on your mind you want to ask me? Or maybe even Brian Fox there if he wants to chime in. Feel free.
Well, I think one of the things that I was wondering, I asked at the start, you're working with a lot of job boards, Chris. I'm just curious what you're seeing. Are we seeing less jobs being posted? Is there a hesitation from employers in actual hiring right now, specifically in the American market? I'm curious about.
Yeah, I'd actually like to hear what Brian thinks about that because Brian runs a pretty big event job board. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you say, Brian? What's your take there?
I think, I mean, we're a little bit unique in that these are gig-based jobs,
Yeah.
right? So don't necessarily impact as much of the full time. Like this past month, we had over 50% growth from March 2024. But I echo the same sentiment that you brought up, Chris, and a couple minutes ago is that, tariffs mean more money to run your business, which means maybe less money that's going towards trade marketing because consumers are spending less. And so, yeah, it's uncertainty, right? It's a little bit concerning, but in the same concept, it's like, oh, I'll dance while the music's still going. So we're full
Yeah.
steam ahead, and really hoping that I do have, we're coming into busy season as well, because as the Northern Hemisphere heats up for spring and summer and fall, that's like prime event season. So I should have a pretty good handle if and when things do start, going south a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I'll also say this too, Serge, is that I've seen some of the job data companies put out like, online job postings. And the last 2 years, it's gone down. So
Yes.
I think the overall answer is no. We're not seeing an influx of job. We're seeing a downward trend on those job listings. Personally, I think we're going to be in the stagnation the rest of the year. I don't see any kind of massive hiring plans on the horizon because of the tariffs and the uncertainty in the market. So I'm expecting a very flat year this year as far as job growth goes. We'll have to see how the numbers come out. I think Friday will be the jobs number here in the U.S. So that's going to be a really interesting number. I saw the ADP came out with 155,000. So we'll probably get another 100,000 jobs, something like that. But I'm kind of more worried about Q2, Q3, Q4 at this point from a jobs perspective. Yeah.
Well, I definitely think in a employer market for probably the last year and a half in some ways, there's a lot more. I think everyone's struggling when we're talking to direct employers. They're getting a lot of applications. Obviously, there's many factors to that as far as unqualified applicants, easy apply, the lazy apply tools with AI is causing part of that. But I think someone mentioned in the comments, Angela, that mass layoffs in the government, they're definitely not going to help because there is a two there's two different trends that we're seeing. We're seeing the sit down jobs. Appcast talks a lot about this. So software devs, like administrative, anything that's pretty much white. There is there is a fair amount of people looking for those jobs, and the volume of jobs have come down. The flip side, the stand-up jobs, so nurses, basically anything that like hospitality, those types of roles, there's still a huge demand for those roles.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
That's
That's
gonna change.
the white collar versus the blue collar. So if you're in blue collar, anything in blue collar, you should be okay this year, right? If
Yes.
you're in anything in white collar, that's where you're going to be flat or down, I think, in terms of your niche, that you're targeting there. So that's a good way
And
to,
you're going to get a lot more applicants than normal, right?
yep.
Which
But that's also, yeah, it's also a good time now for you to focus on those job seekers, getting them come to convert to your site, getting them to create a profile, job alert, resume, right? You have more job seekers now. You should have a little more traffic too. So now's your time to kind of build that audience up a bit so that when the hiring does come back at some point, you've got a bigger database there to target, you know? So there's always opportunity here in the downturns, Serge, for courting that audience and building up your job seekers and stuff.
so what's your advice in that particular case? You're getting a lot of job seeker traffic, getting them to sign up for your site, register, all of those. Is there any tricks, or not tricks is the wrong word, but any way that you have worked with job boards that encourages job seekers to sign up? We've obviously seen what Indeed is doing. Pretty much now, to look for a job at Indeed, you have to be registered.
Yep. Yeah, so I think it's a mix of everything, internet marketing tactics, and I talk a lot about content and SEO, and giveaways. I think are great. If you give away an ebook in your space, right? How to get a job in X industry. That's an excellent little incentive for these seekers. Maybe some contests, things like that, giveaways, get them to convert from that kind of perspective. But generally speaking, you do your SEO, you do your content, you do your newsletters, and that kind of stuff, and it pays off in the long run. So.
How do you feel about resurfacing other jobs in your network that they might be qualified for as well, or on your job board that they might be qualified for, and getting them to apply for those roles? So adding some value. Obviously, a lot of companies do this as far as job email alerts, but taking it just a step further and actually looking into, okay, they've applied for this machinist role, and we actually have
Mhm.
4 other machinist roles that are close to your location that you should apply for. So a little bit more targeted candidate reach out, I think, could drive a lot of value and more applications for those jobs that are posted.
Yeah, some of the problem with that comes with the software. If your job board software doesn't, help surface that stuff, you're kind of out of luck there.
Well, it depends on your volume, right? If
Yeah,
your
that too.
volume is
Yeah, yeah.
fairly low, it's a
The
work
more the more
exercise.
jobs you can get into the system, the more job boards go out. Right.
Yes.
So that's number one thing I'd say is I'm constantly, I've got a client now I work with, and we've added, I don't know, 6 or 7 different sources of job content so we can maximize the number of jobs in the system so that we have more content for those seekers to look at or get a job alert from or get a click from Google for jobs. So that's part of it. Is it's just a kind of amassing as much job content as you can.
Mm.
Even though, Google's not going to give you a lot of search engine traffic on that, it's still useful because you get the job alerts, right? You get that time on site for people.
Yes.
So those are some of the ways I look at that.
Well, and if job seekers come to your site and there's no jobs that are relevant, they're probably not coming back.
Exactly. That's why you have, like, backfill to start with, especially if you're starting from scratch. You got to have something in there for these people to look at. Otherwise, why would they come back if you launch on day one, you have 2 jobs in there. You got to stack that with at least a couple hundred, depending on the
Yes.
niche, maybe a few thousand, right? So that's always key. Questions from the audience here. Let's see. Hire on the spot. Hey, Angela. Good to see you. Did you launch yet? Oh, by the way, sir, Mike says those jobs he said they're legal jobs, I think.
Yes.
What
Uh,
what are, what are legal night
Night
jobs,
job.
Mike? I'm curious. Yeah. What are legal night jobs? Well, let's click on that link actually. Where is this link here? I'm really
Yeah.
curious to see what that site looks like.
So there is a question, what HR job titles make decisions about where they place feeds, or do they outsource that entirely to agencies?
Okay,
I'll
good
let
question.
you take a stab at it first, Chris, but I have some thoughts here.
I would say the talent acquisition manager is typically who runs the job board spend. It could be a recruiting, marketing, operations person, maybe as well. But generally speaking, that's who the go-to is. What do you think, Serge?
Well, it really depends on the size and the scope of the
That's who,
organization.
yeah. Yep.
So if we're talking about smaller organizations, there is a chance that either they don't have a talent acquisition department or it's extremely small. It's one person. In most cases, that one person would be the person that would be deciding where the jobs are, which vendor to deal with, probably with some input of the HR person. As companies get a little bit bigger, so say, I don't know, 500 employees, they probably have a small talent acquisition department. And to your point, it would generally be the talent acquisition manager, director that would be making that call of what sources that they're going to leverage.
Yep.
As you get bigger, and we're talking about the larger companies in North America, um, they generally work with advertising agencies. In most cases, the advertising agencies that they're dealing with would make the recommendations. In some cases, they just run with a budget, and the goal is to get to the amount of candidates that they need. So the agency can take care of that. But in most cases where I've worked with advertising agencies, there is some input from their direct client of where those jobs should be. Obviously, there's some testing in there. If your site is not delivering any candidates, it probably won't work for very long, and they'll move away because they deal with potentially thousands of different sources that they can leverage to deliver those candidates.
Yeah, I want to give a link to the audience here. So this is Lead Candy. I'll put a link here in the chat. Now, I love Lead Candy because you can go to them and say, okay, give me a list of all the talent acquisition managers in X industry or X state.
Yes.
And it's great for prospecting. So, uh,
My recommendations for job boards
yep.
would be targeting talent acquisition managers, even if they're working with an advertising agency. They will make that referral to the advertising agency if they feel that you could potentially deliver the candidates that they want. It's a lot easier doing that way than just going and trying to figure out what the ad agency, because it's not information that's readily available in most cases. But in saying that, if you have a job board and you feel you can deliver, targeting the advertising agencies to become a source, I think is important as well. I think it's critical. So there is around 20 big one. Actually, I shouldn't say that. There's around 5 big ones in the US as far as advertising agencies, like Shaker Recruitment, Recruitix is a very big one. I saw Tim on the call. Bayard, who's now obviously Appcast. But then there's a subset of like 15 that are mid-size, and there's probably hundreds of smaller advertising agencies that focus on recruitment advertising. So if you're looking to get more bang for your buck and you feel you can deliver good results, definitely target ad agencies to become a source for them.
Yep. And Alec from SourceStack is here. If you need backfill, check him out as well. Hey, Alex. Hey, Alec. Here's the overnight job site. Let's take a quick look. Okay. Resident technician. Okay. Overnight front desk, Planet Fitness. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking like hotel stuff, like,
Yeah.
okay, on call, plane companies, facilities, stuff like that. Maybe security officers. Interesting niche, Mike. Are you making any money yet? When did you launch this thing? I'm curious. I like the niche. I think it's an interesting niche. There's nothing like it
Yes.
out there. Yeah. It's just going to take you time to, build a brand there with it. But I like the niche.
Yeah, definitely very interesting because
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
There was a when I launched my night job board, and I gave it up eventually, but I think I was called Night Job Near Me. I think it was called because I saw the Google phrase people were searching for. and I was
Yeah.
playing a bit, but
Well, I'm assuming most night jobs, similar to retail or hospitality, and I'm seeing a lot of hospitality jobs, people are looking for work close to where they live.
yeah,
It would
it
make
could be
sense.
it could be a second job too for a lot of them too,
Yes.
you know. So for people who want a second job, it's the way to try it.
Could you work a night shift, Chris?
Did I?
Could you?
Oh, could I? No, not now. No, maybe when I was younger, but my niece does. She's a nurse, so
Yeah, there you go,
she
right?
has to go for night shifts. But
And
interesting.
generally, night roles do pay more. There's some type of
Yep.
incentive as well. So you
Yeah,
could be
sign on bonus.
attracting
There's
very
like
specific
sign on
job
bonus.
seekers.
Yep. A lot of some gig stuff too. I know like Amazon, like an Amazon now, you can get stuff delivered at like 4 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. They have Amazon Flex, which I believe is part of that, how you do that. And you just drive up with your car. They give you whatever packages you can fit in there and you go out and drive. You don't need the van or anything, you just use your own car. Uh,
Yes, I'll tell you a story about that. That actually
oh,
happened.
okay.
I have young kids. So one night, one of the kids woke up and I was trying to get her to sleep and I'm holding her. I'm looking outside the window and there's someone with a light on top of their head going through like the doors. And I'm thinking someone's looking to rob.
Yeah.
But come to find out, this was a late night Amazon
Yeah.
delivery.
That's kind of weird. I don't think I'd want that job because, like it's dark at night. You're walking up somebody's house. Like no one's expecting that really. So the fact that you were a little scared at first is like,
Well, I almost called the police, right? Like
exactly right.
it's just he's walking
That's got
around.
to happen. I'm sure like people call it police on these Amazon drivers. These poor Amazon drivers. I'll
Absolutely.
bet you anything that probably happened already a million times. Interesting. All right, guys. Other question? Any other questions right now? Let's see.
We do have one.
Yeah.
So the question is, how are the anti-DE&I political currents affecting niche and diversity job boards? That's a really interesting question because I know in certain situations, I have a friend that runs a diversity training company, and she had around $20 million in contracts with the government that all got canceled in
Oh,
January. So basically, her business went from a multi-million, like a quite successfully company, to zero. But I was talking to Disability Solutions in the US, and they have seen an impact, but not as dramatic as I initially assumed, right? Because a lot of organizations, this is still a major consideration, and they're looking for those type of sources. But I'm curious, anyone running a diversity job board in our guests here, in our audience, has it been a challenge for you? Are you seeing a big impact right now?
yeah. I have a client in the space, and it's definitely taken. I'd say about a 25% hit this year
Really?
in
Okay.
sales. Yep. So I'm not going to mention it who it is, but yeah, I'd say roughly 25%, something like that. Um, so yeah, it's definitely having an effect out there. Whether or not it lasts, I hope not, but it's a new environment for sure. And something we have to deal with as a job board owner.
Yeah.
So
Is there any strategies as far as I think a lot of it is in communication and how you're presenting yourself
yeah,
to the
like one
market,
thing
but
we did was instead of using the word diversity a lot, we're using the word inclusion more in the marketing stuff. Because if you ask the owner, he's like, it's not about hiring just people for certain things. It's just about hiring everyone, right? Or we have a broad audience here, and it just diversity means everyone, to them, to the owners. That's a good way to look at it, I think.
yeah, no, I agree. And I think if the government is your client, that might be challenging, right?
Yeah.
Then I do agree the inclusion word is, and I'm not saying this is right, but just thinking about what the language is being used with the government out there in the industry and everyone being extra careful of using inclusion as your main messaging is is this
And for job boards, it's not about like, the strategy behind a diversity job board is just to spread your job listing as far and wide as possible to create an inclusive marketing strategy for that position, right? It's not about saying we're just hard, we're only targeting the HBCUs because we just want to hire them. It's about just broadening their reach for the job listing, right? That's really what it's about. And that's what most people don't understand, I think. It's just a marketing tactic. It's not it's not saying that that company's only going to hire certain people. It's just they're trying to broaden their reach to people they typically may have not have advertised to in the past, right? And that's the
absolutely
way you have to explain it to the people who, don't understand DEI or who talk against it.
agreed?
All right, here it's 1:34. Let's move on to the next session. Appreciate the questions, everybody. Good questions. And what's next here? So we are going to LinkedIn growth strategies. Okay, so first of all, I want to say that social media, I think, is changing for job boards, and depending on the niche, I'll put that caveat out there. Um, but I think LinkedIn is becoming much more important these days versus Facebook and Twitter. I think
Yes.
Facebook is still good for certain industries, maybe a lot, particularly in the local side. I've got a local client. Facebook does really well for them. They use it well. I think something like Twitter or X for tech jobs may still have some viability there, but for the most part, those two channels, Facebook and Twitter, for the average job board have gone down as far as their usefulness goes. I think the algorithms have changed on there, and you're just not seeing as much traffic anymore, particularly out of Twitter. I think Twitter's almost dead now from a traffic perspective.
Well, I think there's a lot of hesitancy of depending on where your jobs show up in the feed, because
Yep.
with the Twitter, the X product now, it could literally, depending on which package you take, it could fall into the feed. And I don't know if anyone's been on X lately. It's a little bit of a challenge in some ways. Like you don't want your job advertising to show up in the middle of some content that you wouldn't want to be associated with. Let's just
Yeah,
say that.
definitely. So that's why I think LinkedIn is becoming more important and you should be spending more time on it for the most part here overall, just kind of generally speaking here. So I got a bunch of different things here I want to run through. So let's just run through the list quickly and I'll kind of get into each one. Maximize your monthly invites, auto publish your job feed, maybe create a job only company page. We'll talk about that. Feature your clients, prospecting lead gen, kind of talked about it in the past, but we'll go over that again. Newsletters, which you may not know about, short form video, and engage with influencers. So let's talk about each of these. So first of all, let me go out to LinkedIn actually while I'm doing that. The first thing you want to look at here, and I hope you should all have a LinkedIn page for your job board. If you're not, start one. First of all, right? You need to be on LinkedIn. Let me pull up a page here and we'll talk about that. You want to maximize your monthly invites here. So let me grab job board secrets. And you get, I believe it's 250 monthly invites
You do.
to invite people to follow your page, essentially. So you want to maximize that activity here. Let me find it here first. So I don't want that. That. Where is that link here? Let me see. Let me view it as a member first.
Yeah.
Well, here's the page. Here's my page for Job Board Secrets. So I've got, what do I have? I've got 291 followers. All right. So what I would do on this is maximize. Let me go back to the admin. Maximize the invites here.
So you go into your followers. It's
Followers.
250 is for the organization that you're,
Okay, here it is. I don't know why
and
I didn't
it
make that
will
bigger.
leverage all your followers of your personal account, and you can go in and click on the ones that you would like to invite to follow your page.
Here we go. Invite connections.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here it is, 250 credits available. So I haven't done this, right? So I need to do this. I need to let me go. Here's God. He's former Simply Hired guy. Let's invite him. Craig Newmark. Let's do him. So you get the idea. Katya, she's from AIM Group. She covers the space a little bit. So you want to make sure you do this every month. and you want to grow those followers. Now you're only going to get probably 10, 20% of people converting on that from my experience, but do that every month, maximize those invites. As a job board owner, you already have a network of people. And so if you also have employees, maybe a couple of your top employees as well, make them an admin. They can invite their connections as well.
Yes.
Just rotate it a bit among your staff. So you get that broad invites and just you grow that following. So that's the first thing you need to do as a job board owner.
Yeah, I absolutely think it's critical, Chris, of doing this because you think about one of our goals in growing the job board is being out there, right? And creating, showing your message to as many people as possible. If you have a lot of followers, obviously the algorithm has changed a little bit, but you are getting distribution that is free. You're basically, you have the ability to share the content and it's not costing you anything compared to advertising or anything like that. As we know, it should be part of your strategy as well for most job boards. But any distribution you can get for free, every job board should be doing.
Yep. Second thing is auto posting your job listings. Now, there's two ways to go about this. I probably would advise against it putting it on your company page, but create a company, job specific company page that you can use a tool like Deliver It to auto post to. I mean, I use on Remote Fetch here. I'm just pushing every job I have on here through Deliver It. And I've gotten, 48 followers out of that strategy so far. I need to do a better job on this, but I don't spend much time on the site. So forgive me for not doing what I preach, but um,
I'm
let's see.
disappointed, Chris. I'm
Yeah, I
disappointed.
know. Not enough time in the day, Serge. I'm stretched thin these days.
So one of the interesting elements
You can
about
see here the jobs I push out there, right? So by doing this, the main strategy here is that, and you get them into the system so that people when searching on LinkedIn, when they're searching posts, they see your stuff and they follow. And it's worked to an extent, right? I've gotten 48 followers doing nothing, essentially just auto posting. And so that's the point there. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, well, exactly to that point, posting your jobs on your company career page, so your job board site. In the past, actually, LinkedIn would leverage this as backfill. I work for a job board that around 35% of our traffic, and it was significant traffic, was coming from us posting all our jobs on our company career page. So the jobs became visible. There was some challenges with it because all the jobs showed up the job board name. And then I got an onslaught of message on LinkedIn. Hey, I applied for this job. Like, can you help me? Those types of messages. But the traffic it drove was definitely worthwhile. Part of the challenge that LinkedIn recently, what they've done is they've limited that. Like they've kind of closed that loophole. But in saying that, if you're posting your jobs on your company page, even to this day, they are searchable. They can be found. And especially if you also buy job slots, maybe a couple of job slots to redistribute your jobs on LinkedIn, there is a chance those jobs in your company pages will be picked up by LinkedIn to do backfill. If you are not a job slot client, that opportunity is pretty much gone. It doesn't exist.
I still get messages too. Like I can post, are you hiring on LinkedIn? And
Yeah,
I would think you maybe could use that for a redirect or something, but I'm not sure. Uh,
I
it
don't know.
might be possible, but anyway, all right. Let's talk about the next one, which is feature your clients. So I got a link here. Let me pull up the link. Let's see here.
I am curious to the audience, if you don't mind putting in the chat, who has like a niche job board, like who has a LinkedIn
Yeah,
company?
if you have a link to your LinkedIn, put it in there. I'll take a quick look.
Yeah.
And obviously some suggestions as well. So put that in the chat there while I look at this link here. I wanted to show an example of featuring your clients. So I'll employ diversity here. Okay, so you can see here how they do it. Check out the latest jobs from Placer County, their client, and 82,000 open jobs on employdiversity.com. And they create a nice visual image here, I think using Canva for that with their logo, the site's logo. This is the perfect way to kind of highlight a client. You want to tag them, tag your site, and throw a link there. And do this, do like a job of the day, something like that each time. Let's take a look at Kaja's here. I think she does some good stuff too. I've seen some of Kaja's links on the site here. Let's see, it's pulling up LinkedIn. So she runs Ekaji Connections, Nihongo Jobs. Let's see here. So you got the nice image. Okay, got the logo. 12,000 followers. Excellent, Kaji. That's awesome. Here are some of our jobs. Here's a little feature.
I don't think you're sharing it.
Oh, I'm
You're
not? Okay. Hold on. It popped up a new window. So let me close that window. Just copy it here and put it on my. How about now? Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So here's their connection. He's got 12,000 followers.
That's fantastic.
Yep, that's excellent. Here's a featured jobs. Let's see what she does here. So she talks about featured jobs in Georgia, Michigan, Ohio, total job ads. Okay, excellent. Here's one of her clients, looks like. Maybe not. Let's see. Position has been filled. Yep, seeking undergraduate. You can use their logo too. That's fine. Yep, yep. Japanese
I
teacher.
do think the other element, if you're leveraging your company career page, if your LinkedIn company page, don't just put job content. I do think it's important to have a variety of content highlighting employers you're working with, but also if you're doing any blogs, you're doing any type of video content, you should definitely have it on there as well.
Yep. Yep. Here's the Jabilicos. The one thing that LinkedIn has done now, which is like if you post like a YouTube video, they make all the images like small now, which I don't like. You have to upload an image directly for the full image to appear. Otherwise, if you just put a link, it looks like this. It's kind of a shrunken visual, and that's kind of a thing that they've changed in the last couple of years. So
Yeah,
it's even more important now to actually upload your own content directly to LinkedIn, whether it's a video, an image, because if you put a link up there, it's going to show minimalized in the feed versus something like
it also kills your engagement. As
yes,
far as the algorithm doesn't pick it up. So I do recommend if you do have original content, videos, anything like that,
yeah,
put it up front. Your link should always be in the comments.
yep. I just thought of a LinkedIn tactic too that I didn't put on the list, should have, but if you have a blog post on your site, come back to LinkedIn a week later and post it as a post or an article maybe on your own personal one to reuse that content back to LinkedIn. Give LinkedIn the secondhand version, but duplicate that content on LinkedIn. That's an easy win for content and some traffic and some followers.
Yeah, and Jabilico is a good example. Jabilico is a little bit bigger than most sites in this space.
28,000 followers. Yep.
Yeah, 29,000 followers, and they have content writers. They have a very aggressive content strategy overall. This is a perfect place for them to showcase it.
Okay, let's take Andres here, senior care work. 2 followers. Okay, Andre, get some work to do. Looks like you're probably new, so that's fine. Show all these page posts. So okay, so right when this one here, whoops, I clicked out. So there's no visual there. So upload a visual image to it, like this one. You should always have a visual with your post if you can. Let's look at all posts here. 18. Okay, so there's your blog. Here's another blog. Okay, so yeah, just keep cranking in content in there. Reuse the content from your blog, and again, invite those followers going forward here. So, all right, let me move on here. So 148. What's next here? Prospecting lead gen. Okay, so let me grab this link, and we'll talk about this here. So I've mentioned this in the past many times, but it's worth exploring again here. Using LinkedIn for prospecting. So I did a search of, type it in here. I used the phrase email, resume, in quotes, and marketing. I'm looking for marketing jobs. I'm specifically looking for recruiters or TA people, talent acquisition, who have posted those roles. Because using that phrase email, resume means they have their email address on that post. So if I have a marketing job board, here we go. I'm going to message and comment on these. And I would do this like at least once a day or once a week, depending on how many there are. But once you do this phrase, and you can just change the word marketing to whatever niche you're in, right? Or you can even change it like send resume or mail resume, whatever. You can experiment with the phrasing up here. But this is kind of a go-to one I have, like email resume in quotes and marketing and sales and healthcare, whatever the niche is, right? And you will find posts like this, and you can sort those posts by the latest. You can do, sort by connections or whatever. But this is how I would content. So I would do this religiously every week at least, and comment on here. Maybe leave a comment saying something like, "Hey, noticed you're hiring in the marketing field. Have you heard about marketingjobs.com or whatever it is? Here's a discount code. Try it out." Right. That's a simple comment you could put on there. You're giving them some value back with the coupon code, and you also like their content as well, like and comment. Maybe even post it if you want to do that, if you had to go a little extra further. But these are leads. These are leads, guys. Here we go. Eric at MedidenTalentGroup.com, right? That's a lead. Resumes at AstraCorp.com. Right? These are leads. People are hiring right now. So it's easy lead gen. Easy lead gen. So
Chris, what's the best tactic to reach out? So obviously you just mentioned putting in a comment and but as far as reaching out directly to them for your job boards, what would
yeah, you
you
want to grab that email address, put them in your drip campaign, right? You'd be touching that email address 6 times over the course of the next 9 months or whatever it is, something like that. Put them in that drip campaign. If you want send one this week, maybe a follow up a week after or 10 days after, then a third one goes out a month later, a month later, a month later, a month later, right? That will be a good cadence, for example, right? Something like that. And that works. I'm working with a client now, and the third email has the best open rate, 25%, as an example out there. So,
should you personalize the messages? Obviously, you
yes.
mentioned drip campaign, but
Yeah,
definitely
if you could put the person's name
the first
in the
message.
email somewhere, hi, first name, or even in the subject line. If you put the person's name in the subject line, that's even better. And you can do that dynamically if you have, if your spreadsheet has the first name in there. So when you are prospecting, make sure you get their first name at the very least.
Yes.
You can even add the company name. So for example, ideally, you take the email address and you take their name, first name, and their company name, and you put all that, you use all that to your advantage. Let's see here, Mike. Have you heard about marketingjobs.com to use for Robert Half? That's his company, right? So that would be a subject line, for example, right? So it's personalized to his name and his company. That's the best personalization I think you can do, isn't that subject line?
Yes, like that example, what we talked about earlier as well. Someone had asked, like, who should they reach out to make sure they're a source? I think you can do a little bit of research if you see some of those posts and say it's coming from a recruiter. Obviously, you can reach out to them, but try to figure out who the talent acquisition leader is for the organization and send them as well.
Yep.
I think there's multiple strategies of getting to the right buyer. And obviously, looking at the company, Robert Half is a massive staffing firm. So that recruiter is probably not going to be helpful in that particular sense.
Sean is coming up next. Hey, Sean, thanks for joining us. All right, let's talk about newsletters because this is another great channel I think most job boards are not using, but should be, and that is newsletters. So on your company page now, you can do newsletters if you're not aware of this or not. So, if you have a newsletter already, you're sending out for email, you want to repurpose that and create an email newsletter on your LinkedIn company page here. You can see I've done it before. I've got 874 followers on RegTech Media, and 276 have subscribed. And I just take my existing email newsletter and I basically repurpose it, cut and paste. That's a newsletter. It took me 5 minutes to send out that newsletter to another 276 people, right? So you can put anything in there, videos, links, everything. That's what it looks like. So leverage that newsletter channel as much as possible, guys. It's a free, essentially, alert channel that you're not taking advantage of.
Well,
It's
say, Chris, say you're starting a newsletter from scratch.
Yep.
Should you start it on LinkedIn instead of an email newsletter? Because say, let's look at those companies with 20,000
I don't know.
followers.
If you have a lot of connections, maybe, if you're just starting out with zero, first of all, you should, the email channel should be your primary channel for your newsletter. You own that. Like you don't
You
own the LinkedIn newsletter channel. One day
True.
they could take it away. So, I think you leverage it as a second-hand channel, like I'll call it, for duplicating what you're already doing offline of LinkedIn. That's the way I would think about it. Unless you've got some giant connections out there that if you launch a newsletter tomorrow, you could have thousands of signups. But I think it depends on the person overall.
Well, I like your advice of doing both.
Yeah, but do both. Do both. That's the main thing, right?
Do both.
All right. All right, 155. We're running out of time here. Short form video. So yeah, LinkedIn is definitely prioritizing video more. I did a post on Job Board Secrets yesterday, just talking about Job Board Con. Here it is here. Do a little selfie video. I think those things do really well as far as engagement goes. Now, let me see. I don't know if I can see the stats on this or not, but
I 100% agree. Obviously there's a lot of focus with LinkedIn when it comes to video. You'll get higher engagement, and from anything I've seen in my personal content or any content that for job boards we work, it does really well generally.
I got 10 video views. I only have 291 followers, so I got, what is that? That's like,
you get one like
10%. But I think I got one click. I got one click. So 14 impressions, 2 engagements, 1 click. Okay, so somebody clicked something. So I got something out of it. But yeah, I think you do more of that stuff overall because do a little featured video job listing or something like that. Do a job of the week or something like that, a job of the day with your social media team. But start using video more on LinkedIn because I think it's going to prove effective for you as a channel. So, and then the last thing was engaging with more influencers. So, find those people, comment, like, and this is more for like the job board owner, I think, from your personal page. And as a job board owner, you should be, if you can, leveraging LinkedIn personally, sharing your job board stuff on your own personal feed. I like to see more of you doing that out there. Some of you are maybe doing this stuff at night because you have a full-time job and may not jibe with your full-time job. I understand that, but the more you can use your own face to promote your job board on your own channels, personal channels, the better off you're going to be as a job board owner. So,
not to toot my own horn, but I'm putting in the link for Career Beacon, a company that I worked with, and I am very impressed with the type of content they're putting out and how they're leveraging their LinkedIn company page across the board for video and other elements. They're a very niche, specialized job board in a very specific part of Canada, so not a massive audience, but I'm saying that they have 18,000 followers. But it should give you a good example of what content you should be putting out there, like what it can look like. So I'm just putting in a channel if you guys want to take a look at.
Okay, let me grab it there. Let's take a quick look as we start to wrap things up here. Yeah, 18,000 followers. They talk a lot. Okay, so effective. They got some events going on like that. Yeah, you should be educating both seekers and employers if you can, if you have that ability. That's a great topic there. What Japanese menus teach us about effective job boards? Okay, that's interesting. Kaj, you may like that one. She runs a Japanese type of job board too. So let's check that out.
Ryan, this gentleman is actually based in Japan.
Oh, he is. Okay. Excellent. I'll have to tune in.
You go down, you see some of the videos.
Is that Ryan?
That is Ryan, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. So there's a Canadian company, but they're a local site. He's in Japan.
Yes, he's from Atlantic Canada, but met his wife
Okay. Gotcha.
to Japan and is working remotely for that company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, check it out, gotcha. All right. All right, let's move on to our next event here. Let me go back to slideshow mode. And we'll talk to Mr. Horton, who's on the line now. You can unmute yourself there, Sean.
Amateur night, amateur day
Hey,
here,
hey,
right?
hey.
There we go. Voice is always good, right?
Yes. All right, everyone, meet Sean Horton. He's the VP of Growth at Fusion now. Well, it's I guess they're an agency, but he used to be in the job board world. He just came from Jobs and Logistics. He worked there for, I think, 9 or 10 years. And welcome, Sean. It's nice to see you, man.
Hey, it's nice to see you, Chris. I appreciate you having me on here. Yeah, despite the recent move, I just personally needed to explore more walks of life overall, but my heart is still near and dear to the job board world. 15 years, 5 there at Career Builder / Connect, and then 10 closing out my tenure with jobsandlogistics.com. So certainly still near and dear place in my heart. So regardless of the flag I may be flying currently, certainly still a champion and happy to be involved and help where I can, man.
Definitely, man. Yeah, feel free to add your LinkedIn in the chat there if you want, so you can connect with Sean out there. But Sean, I wanted to have you on because you're a veteran of the space. And you really focus on a lot about selling. So I wanted to do a topic here on selling and prospecting to employers. Like, let's start high level here. Like, what's the key to selling a job board to employees? What do you say when I ask you that question?
The key is truly understanding your board and what your message is, taking it all the way down to your traffic. I mean, that is point, end of story. The more you understand about yourself and what you provide, the better fit you're going to be overall to any one said employer. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
John, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm curious. We were talking about agencies and job boards reaching out to advertising agencies. So I'm going to make the assumption that Fusion now is an advertising agency. And from what I'm reading, it's basically focused on CDL drivers. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about Fusion, actually, while we have the audience.
Absolutely. No, we are a full service recruitment advertising agency. We are specific directly to your CDL drivers, mechanics, technicians. I'll say logistics and transportation overall is going to be our wheelhouse, with our core being the CDL drivers side, which rolls right into, my overall past. Again, spending a decade with jobsandlogistics.com. It was really just kind of, a no-brainer in a sense, going from focusing specifically on the job boards to now I can focus on everything and look to capture and work with others that I might have called, frenemies in the space, for lack of better terms. So now I have a plethora of different options to serve clients that, my hands, were kind of capped a little bit. I mean, job boards definitely provide a strong support mechanism and are very much a very important part of media planning. But as well as I do, in the grand scheme of talent attraction and all else we're doing, there are so many other components that, as a job board, you can't necessarily fill. And I think of ATS systems. I think of, certain levels of culture, branding. I mean, even, corporate websites. I mean, you guys know, regardless of the type of traffic or the type of response you may get on your niche focused job board, you get to like the careers page or no page at all, you're kind of like shooting yourself in the foot in a certain sense. So, yeah, real excited. This is week 5,
Week
day
5.
3 in that. So I'm still drinking from a fire hose a little bit.
What's your advice for niche job boards or job boards selling into advertising agencies?
Understand the agency's focus. That is really going to be, and what metrics are most important to the agencies themselves. There are so many different metrics that get thrown around, whether it's cost per hire, whether it's cost per lead, whether it's cost per click, whether it's number of hires. Every agency has, the direction that they take and steer their clients. So it's pertinent to know what language do they speak, what is most important to the agency and the clients they serve. An easy example, just coming from the jobs and logistics and jobs and trucks world, the idea of direct applications versus matched leads or quote unquote just candidate leads when the day is said and done. The idea of, okay, said candidate fits this profile, so we're going to tee them up, to have that job. There are organizations that embrace and understand how to work with your client on any candidate type, whether it is a direct or whether it's an indirect. And there are others that will absolutely just not even hear the word. If you are not focused on direct traffic and direct applications, then there's not even a conversation.
Good deal.
Yep.
Sean, you've done sales for how many years now? Say 15?
15. Yep.
Okay. What's your most memorable like success story from that time? Like that you sold maybe a big package or a career building? You got a quick story for us?
Absolutely. So probably my favorite success story does stem from jobsandtrucks.com, and it's with a healthcare provider. So, and you sit here, and I'm sure everybody, at least on the call and listening, is lightweight healthcare provider and trucks. And that's ultimately where I say you need to fit in. You need to understand your market, and you need to understand the value that you bring to the table, not only as the job board and having the right type of talent, but also having the experience and the expertise to help your clients assimilate and adapt to the culture of the audience you're looking to market to. So in not so many words, I was working with a healthcare organization. They haul radiology equipment all across the country. So 90% of their hires are going to be, healthcare staff, radiologists, technicians, all the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's been far since I've been in the healthcare world, but ultimately they also happen to hire CDL drivers. And the fact of the matter is their messaging and their targeting was way off. They had local/regional roles that they were advertising as over the road roles. So, any person that is familiar with the space would know and realize the reason that you are not capturing the attention or the type of drivers you're wanting is because what you're offering and what you're messaging are two completely different things. So it took some time, not only to get buy-in from obviously the recruitment and the talent acquisition team, but the heads of state within human resources, because we fully had to recraft their entire job description and understanding of the organization as to what the role is and what the message needs to be into the driver community. Needless to say, a client of mine for a solid 5 years, and they are still humming right along with jobs and trucks at this point in time.
Now, did you like notice that job description at first? Was that your in as far as just getting their attention and talking to them?
Absolutely. It was my immediate, means of being able to be an advisor. I mean, that automatically validates me. And then ultimately it turned into the fact that I have access to a plethora of drivers was almost second nature, right? It started with, we're not getting the right talent. Well, here's why. It was more important to understand why they were failing as opposed to being able to just plug in my job board and be off to the races.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Beyond like, niche job boards, it's always been about, quality versus quantity. In terms of the messaging, what other types of things do you think they could take away from as far as just crafting that message today, Sean?
Can you say that again for me, Chris?
So like with niche job boards, like
Yep.
the value of them are it's all about targeting a like-minded audience. In many cases, it's quality versus quantity. It's not Indeed, right? You might get, on Indeed, you might get 1,000. With a niche job board, you might get 100 or 50, right? But how do you typically, like with jobs in logistics?
Yep.
How did you go about messaging that? What was the EVP there? What was the pitch? And give me some thoughts around how you actually messaged JIL, if you could.
Conversion rates. When the day is said and done, I can post a job on Indeed and I can have 1,000 applicants, but then how many of them actually convert versus qualified focused traffic that may be lesser in nature, but more of a fit, more interest, more dedication to actually taking on the role.
Yeah.
That's really the strongest piece of the puzzle. Where do you want to invest your resources on actually getting in front of and actually hiring talent that is able to be hired, or chasing leads that may or may not even be real people in this day and age?
Yeah. Now, do you guys have a media kit for JIL and stuff?
Oh, yeah, there's absolutely a media kit on jobsandlogistics.com. You can certainly check that out. And then all the individual niche focused job boards that are tied to jobsandlogistics.com do have their individual one sheets as well. Those of you that aren't familiar with jobsandlogistics.com, it is a suite of individual niche focused job boards targeting elements within the logistics and supply chain industries.
Yeah. What's in that? What should be in that media kit, Brian, Sean? Give me some thoughts on the elements of that, if you could.
Actual data. Again, going back to conversion rates and going back to even just the comments on the agency, what are the elements and what are the talking points that your clients and or your viewers want to see and want to know? As much as you can share from an analytical perspective, the stronger you hedge your bets. I mean, let's face it, we're all up against the Indeeds of the world, right? Who are all things to all people. Well, guess what? We're not all things to all people, but these are the people that we are in front of. And here's the numbers that back up the how and the why.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Sean, if you started a niche job board from scratch, what would your go-to-market strategy look like? How would you approach getting business from scratch? What would that strategy, like the highlights of that strategy, look like for you?
Truly to me, it would be identifying obviously a need in the space, right? So where is there currently a source or a vendor, what have you, that isn't already supporting or filling that void? I'm open for friendly competition and open for what makes sense, but overall it'd be, where is the need? I can't say that we need another jobsandtrucks.com as there's already jobs in this and jobs in that, a plethora of competition. So what really makes space where you can really look to and provide value and aren't really just looking to, I'm just going to say, jump in the arena to make money. I think that's where many fall short. And I can say that specifically within the CDL world. So many want in on the buku dollars that, is recruitment and, it is recruitment budgets within the space, but they want to come in and really have no idea what's going on with the industry or not have, the proper positioning in order to make it happen. So then you're just somebody else that just wants your hand in the pot. So that to me would be really, where is my value pop and where is my passion going to lie? Because we all know that it's going to be an uphill battle. Again, going up against the Indeeds, going up against the others in the space that may or may not, follow the same prerogatives as we do. From there, would really be, investing in understanding, what players I need to bring into place in order to truly develop what's going to not only be, a game changer currently, but then also be able to expand and scale in the near future, right? How many, get started, but then they haven't set themselves up to adapt as the times go. Those would be key elements for me, at least if I were to kick a job board off at the ground level.
I guess what you're saying, yeah, building it doesn't mean they will come. So you still have to have a plan. Just creating a job board, suddenly you're not going to get a ton of job seekers and employers just jumping at you. There needs to be a very clear plan and a targeted market. How do you start, like when we talk about business development, which is your background, how would you approach it from a business development outside as far as prospecting? Like like what's been your approach in creating kind of your prospecting approach, your sales approach?
Thinking outside the box, right? So it's all easy for us to sit and say, oh, I want to do business with Amazon. Well, if the whole world wants to do business with an Amazon, you're going up against the whole world in order to compete from that business development. Look for avenues that may or may not be seen from your competition that you can effectively insert yourself, begin to generate that value. And once you've grown yourself to a certain aspect, then you can move on to the Amazons and the big boys in the world where you do have real world case studies and real world successes and those hard numbers that larger organizations are going to look for. And I go back to just the healthcare provider. Again, it's very simply put, and there's a plethora of healthcare providers out there that hire CDL drivers, that hire non-CDL drivers, that many in the space may not be looking at just because, oh, this is a healthcare provider. Why would that make sense for me to reach out to them if I only focus in logistics and transportation? Well, let me tell you. Obviously, that's just a nice, easy example for me.
Love
Yeah,
it.
thank God for healthcare companies. Well, them, I don't think there'd be any job boards.
Right?
They're the one industry is always hiring. Interesting. That was a great question, Serge, around the prospecting stuff. Particularly Sean, give me some more details around prospecting. Like, do you do trip campaigns? Do you buy lists? Give me some more thoughts on that.
You know what? I have never paid for any of that. I have never signed up for LinkedIn Sales Navigator or any of the wide world of sports that one can buy.
So where do you get where do you get your prospecting list from then? He froze there.
Yeah,
Sean,
I think he froze.
oh man.
Sylvie has a really good comment here. Make sure you do
Is
your home.
king. I stole this from Joe Shaker. You make a friend, make a sale. The only way you make friends is in conversation. So whether the most efficient way of doing that, of course, picking up the phone and making phone calls, and then of course all the other elements fall into a cadence somewhere along the way. But I very much am a fan of picking up the phone and calling.
Okay. We lost you there for a minute there, Sean, but
Oh,
let's pick up on that. So talk about calling. How effective is cold calling today for a job board?
I would say it's very effective. I mean, honestly, over the past 10 years, it has gotten me the opportunity to, of course, be where I am today. And it honestly, it separates me from everybody else. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. How many emails, LinkedIn messages, smoke signals, and every single other element that you can be contacted with are you being reached at?
Yeah.
How many people will get phone calls anymore?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Um, as much as I hate to say it, text might be the next round. And never in my life did I think I'd be texting with vice presidents and heads of state. But, that is a thing now, right? So, on top of me feeling that calls are king, and that's where I thrive because I do have the gift of gab and clearly like to talk. Um, you need to meet your clients where they want to meet,
Yeah.
and you figure that out along the way. And if a call doesn't work, there's a plethora of other options to move on. But that's ultimately where I would start and where I maintain my focus for any stab I take in looking to develop the business.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Sean, because in the world of AI created email messages, LinkedIn messages, I think we've all become numb to it. And I guarantee you, for everyone listening here, if you go to your email inbox, probably 90% of your emails that you receive, you're not even opening, especially the email marketing type of messages. So personalization is going to be very much a differentiator in this world of AI, especially moving forward. So anything you can do, like I am not used to getting a cold call anymore, but if I do one, I'm listening. So
Yeah.
it is, I love that. I think that's a really good perspective and a really good way of approaching it in that sense. You have to go a little bit off the board of what's being used. I'm not saying not leveraging marketing messages and across the board, but personalizing and being that human touch. In saying that, I've talked to a lot of job boards that have had a lot of success attending, not necessarily hosting like HR events, meet and greets, like networking events. What's your thoughts around that as far as a prospecting opportunity?
Do it. That I would say would be the next best thing outside of picking up the phone and making cold calls. I just got back from the Mid America Truck Show myself. And I mean, the sky was the limit for me. Obviously, everybody's very curious as to, my change in roles. But even if I hadn't changed roles, just the excitement and having people in front of you being able to have a conversation, right? I mean, how many of us, vicariously stalk our clients via LinkedIn, looking at pictures from 10 years ago, that aren't applicable. I mean, there is absolute value to be had in being present and being in front of those you want to speak to. Again, we're approaching a world where, many of us aren't even going to know, are we talking to a robot? Is that really, Chris Russell, not to go down the doomsday rabbit hole, but is that really Chris Russell in front of me? Or is that, a virtually
My avatar
created
talking. Yeah.
version,
I'm,
So there's
I
a
just
lot to be had.
I'm using an avatar today. It's not really me doing that.
I think to that I think to that point and what we talked about earlier is video is so critical, right? If someone keeps seeing you on a feed, on their LinkedIn feed, when you do cold call them, they already feel they kind of know you. So having a strong presence on LinkedIn and other sites in your community, especially if you're in a niche job board, absolutely critical.
Yeah, build. You got to build a brand today, right, Sean? It is about
Absolutely.
keeping your name, and you have to constantly remind people you exist in this business. I
Yep.
can't tell you how many times people forget about that. The marketing, they do marketing 1 month and they forget about it for 2 months, and then they wonder why no one's coming. Well, you have to constantly remind both employers and seekers you exist as a website today. I
Yep.
can't stress that enough.
Yep. And that attendance, hits the nail on the head. I am a real person, that has a real family, that has a real life. It's much easier and could be a much, better, we'll say, business case and being able to be compassionate for one another. A funny little story, not to go off the rails here, but so the Mid America Truck Show, right? And talking about personal brand. So first time I went to the Mid America Truck Show, Amy Noah was, of course, my boss, and we'll call this trial by fire. I had really no idea what I was getting into. I was still junior in a sense from I will say an executive perspective. And she says, "Hey, we're going to go to the Mid America Truck Show." I said, "Okay, great." Didn't know what that was, but I'm like, "Oh, professional trade show event." For those of you that aren't familiar with the Mid America Truck Show, 60,000 truck drivers. It's like a big circus. There is definitely elements of profession, and there's definitely elements of the ladder and everything in between. But where I'm going with this is, I showed up in a three-piece suit with a bow tie. People thought I was an accountant, a lawyer, or had the plague. However, I'm now the bow tie guy in the industry. Of course, I'm slipping for this call today, but it turned into my brand. I had clients bringing me bow ties to these conferences. I have clients showing up to see what bow tie am I wearing in the booth today. And it caught on like wildfire. And officially in the space, I'm the bow tie guy. And I've actually heard others that have just been in the conference, have no idea who I am, and wear a bow tie, getting chastised for wearing the bow tie because they are not the bow tie guy. So yes, brand is certainly huge, but then just kind of rounding it out in that face to face, we're people.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, just put a cap on the brand thing, on the events thing. When I ran my local sites, I did all the local job fairs in the area that I could get into and spread the word. But any kind of industry events for your niche, you should be going to those and marketing your company every year. That's how you build a brand, I think, particularly offline. So, all right, Sean, we got about 10 more minutes here. And this has been great so far. I've learned a lot. Let's talk about pricing a job board, Sean. First of all, what was the pricing for jobs and logistics? Were you CPC? Were you pay for post? Were you both? Give me some thoughts around what you guys did there.
Yep. So they maintained standard job pricing. So, it's fixed costs based off of whether you're looking at a single job or whether you're looking at a plethora of job, of course, having different variations between standard job postings and your quote unquote slot options or parking spaces. And then, of course, the sky's the limit depending upon additional, creature features that were offered, including, social media options and branding and some other pieces. But at its core for us, it was the standard. So I subscribe, from a niche job board perspective. I felt that was strong, and it was important for us to maintain that focus and maintaining our value and maintaining our quality. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole in this, but there's a big part of me that wants to say, when you look at cost per click, when you look at programmatics, it's really a chase to the bottom. And overall losing your value and losing, potentially, a certain degree of credibility. But I don't know that we have the time for me to really dig into all of that, but definitely a fixed costs that were moldable based off need.
Yeah. Yeah. I see your points there, because, CPC, it's all about, at that point, it's about volume, right? So then
Yep.
you're more like an Indeed in that respect, versus a niche play, but interesting.
And let's be
Um,
honest, there's only, so many, truck drivers or technicians with a Class A CDL and 15 years of experience in Podunk, Indiana. Let's be honest with ourselves. So, when you look at pricing and you look at value, if I'm competing to, I want to click for 2 cents versus the other guy that wants, is going to get a nickel. I mean, it's not sustainable, and it makes 0 sense from a business perspective.
Yeah, in the audience, if you have a question for Sean, throw it in the chat there. We'll be sure to ask that at the end. What's it cost to post a single job on Jobs and Logistics right now?
Yeah, it is $335 to post a single
335.
job on jobsandlogistics.com. The driver's side or jobs and trucks has a little bit more expansive and a different segment of costing points, and that really is relevant to how buyers purchase in the driver or the truck driver and transportation space. I was honestly shocked when I made the transition as to every industry says they have their nuances, and I would certainly agree with that, but the trucking world it's a whole other ballpark from anything I've experienced. When I was at Career Builder, I was on point with healthcare and manufacturing. So definitely been exposed to many different industries, but you got to know your audience. You got to know the environment that you're going to be selling into.
Yeah.
drivers is one of the most challenging roles in North America, probably around the world right now. What's your take? What's going on in the driver recruitment space right now? Is it getting easier, more challenging? How are we solving? It's kind of a crisis. Like we need a lot more drivers right now.
You know what? It is a very loaded question, and I say that because it really depends on what you subscribe to and the means of qualified candidates, right? There are those in our space that will say there isn't a driver shortage, there's a shortage of quality jobs, or on the flip side of that, is a mass or overcapacity, as we like to say, of CDL drivers. So it really depends on where you sit in the industry right now as to whether you are truly challenged or not. I have organizations I've worked with that even during COVID didn't miss a beat on their goal and their need to hire. That could be from size, that just sheer scale. That can be from what they were supporting and running. And then there are others that I hate to say it, are still closing down shop. And many may or may not realize how not diversified, how decentralized all of the carriers are, right? This is an area where I'm Joe, I get a truck, I start a company because I find one client, I'm doing running loads for them. That one client then says, hey Joe, you do a great job, we need another truck, or we want to do more business with you. So I get another truck and I get another driver, and the next thing I'm now running a fleet of 100. Now, with that said, all along the way, I like to think others are capturing business and capturing more clients in order to support that business. But the unfortunate reality is many are lights on based off one client. So if that one client all of a sudden decides that, oh, we no longer need you, or even worse, we're out of business, then you're caught with your pants down, and then here we go, shutting down shop. I think an easy example that many might know and realize in the space is going to be Jack Cooper. They were one of the largest auto haulers in the country, and during negotiations with the big three, they didn't play out as planned. And now, unfortunately, Jack Cooper, one of the biggest auto haulers in the country, is now out of business. Right? There's others obviously to fill the void along the way, but when your whole business thrives off three individual clients, granted their size and scale gives them obviously market sway, and when it comes down to negotiations, but three clients, now what do you do?
Yeah.
And you've gotten yourself to that size because you've been working with those three clients for decades, right? Sorry, not to go all the way down that hole, but
No,
a
no,
lot to unpackage there. Lot to unpackage.
No, I love it. And I think the whole CDL has been fascinating to see that whole industry as far as the challenges. And I've heard both sides of it as well. So, but I'm curious, bring that back to the job board world. Say you are in a niche that's really hard to find, maybe the job seekers. What's the strategy? Like, what did job seeker acquisition look like at the companies you worked at?
Yeah, I want to hear more about how you targeted particularly drivers, Sean, to get them to come to the site. So good
Yeah.
questions.
Understanding, what beat they march to, right? So I'm very candid in the fact that I'm an office guy, and the reason that I go to the Mid America Truck Show is it's one of the only times where I literally find myself in the trenches with the driver community, right? So, am I speaking the right language, right? Am I creating an experience that aligns with what their world looks like? And an easy example is, mobility. Guess what? You go to jobsandtrucks.com, it's fully mobile, and it is one of the simplest processes to apply for a job while on a smart device, right? That's pertinent. There are others, of course, that may not be as aligned, but as far as the drivers in their community, I mean, that's going to be the biggest key. Am I fitting in? Am I aligning with what you're looking for and what your world looks like? So whether it's from a passive perspective, or a direct perspective, it's really meeting the candidates where they are and following suit with what their interests are, how they behave, what goes on. And most folks don't necessarily sit and realize. I mean, truck drivers live in their trucks. So if you do not have the most mobile friendly site experience possible, then you might as well not even bother. And again, even attending trade shows. So we talked about being at the trade shows, right? And I think I'll fire across the bow is like, what job boards and what agencies were actually at the Mid America Truck Show. I can tell you there wasn't a single generalist site. There wasn't a single generalist anything. Right.
Yeah.
We have Fusion Now, a couple of my other industry partners in the agency world, and a job board or two focused specifically on drivers. But everybody else, not interested. right?
Yeah.
Why would you not be interested if you want to understand and you want to align with what drives your business, right? There is no business for jobs and trucks if we don't have the drivers.
Good
Great.
stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, I think we'll wrap this up, Sean. It's been great to reconnect. I appreciate all the advice you guys gave out there, and yeah, I wish you the best of luck there at Fusion.
Absolutely. No, I absolutely appreciate it. Again, obviously, Fusion now, obviously great talent attraction and recruitment agency. But I am happy to talk on and share with anybody. So just because, again, my flag has changed a little bit doesn't mean the space, especially the niche job board world, is not near and dear to my heart. Anybody is welcome to reach out to me via LinkedIn. I promise I will not ignore you. Just tell them I know Chris and Serge, and I'll make sure to answer that LinkedIn and take it seriously. But happy to field questions and help anybody where I can. I'm a firm believer in all of this, that we win together and we fail together. And as practitioners, as colleagues, as everything else, I want everybody winning as best we can, and that includes the candidates as well as, of course, us job boards. So let me know where I can help.
So
All right, awesome.
your LinkedIn is in the chat. So everyone, please check it out. Sean Horton, and your website, fusionnow.com, or correct me.
Absolutely. FusionNow.io. Excuse me. I'm
.io.
learning that one. Yep. FusionNow.io. Lot to be had.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, we really appreciate it, Sean. This was fantastic. Great info. Really appreciate having you on.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thankful. I'm very thankful. You all have a dynamite one, and good luck with the rest.
All righty. Take care, man. That was great.
So Chris, before we jump into the next topic, there was a question that you did answer, but I want to make sure that the whole audience gets. So what conference are most effective for reaching advertising agencies? I have my personal opinion because I've been selling to advertising agencies for a long time. Definitely TA Tech is, I think, probably the most valuable one at their job board to attend. Generally, there's one or two every year. I think this year is in June, and it's in San Diego. So do check out TA Tech. But you did answer the general HR one are generally very good, and I agree with that. The major ones, so Unleash, that is coming up in May, will have pretty much all the major advertising agencies. And I'm not saying to get a boot here. That could be way too costly. Just go and attend if you can. So Unleash and HR Tech in October is a really good one as well, where most of all the advertising agencies in the talent acquisition space are.
Yep. There's also SHRM Talent, but if you're a niche player, I think the industry ones are the first place to go. If you're a bigger niche site, like a Job and Logistics, I saw them at SHRM last year. It's when I ran into Sean actually, and I kind of got the ball rolling on his appearance today. But
so Cassia has questioned that if anyone has been to Talent Acquisition Week, which was in February in San Diego, I was there. There is a virtual one in July. I've never attended the virtual one, so I can't attest to what the quality or the ability to interact, but I thought TA Week, there was a fair amount of advertising agencies and a fair amount of practitioners, TA leaders. So it is a good one to attend. I definitely think everyone should check that one out as well.
Yeah. All right, I'm looking for Rachel from Job Case. She's supposed to.
She is in the attendee, so I don't know if you can.
Is she in the participants there? Let's see here. Roxanne. Oh, there's Rachel. Okay. Allowed to talk. Okay. There you go. Rachel, I just allowed you to talk, so you should be able to come on now. She's going to talk about Job Case. They bought Recruitology a couple years ago, which powers job boards. So she wanted a few minutes to pitch the audience. So we'll get her on the line there. Rachel, can you hear us yet?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Very good.
Let me see.
Hello, Rachel.
Share.
Hey there.
All right. You can share your screen now if you want. Do you have some slides for us?
I don't have slides. I'll share something at the very end before I wrap up, and then I can put that link in the chat. But I don't know why my camera is not working.
Awesome.
But nice to see everybody. Nice to meet everybody.
Same here, Rachel Scudder. So yeah, explain who you are and why you're here.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Rachel Scudder. I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager here at Jobcase. And I've actually been in recruitment advertising for quite a while, over a decade now. It's funny because I actually
Mm.
worked with Sean Horton at Gannett. We resold
Ah,
Career Builder products. Yeah, so we go way
small world.
back. Very small world. After that, I worked at monster.com, so one of the big job boards. And then I came over to Recruitology, now Jobcase. So, yeah, just wanted to kind of share how Jobcase works with partners and some of the things that we can do for our job board partners.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Jobcase for partners, we power the job board software and job board distribution for thousands of partners at this point. Jobcase.com itself is a social platform with a job board for blue collar and hourly workers. But our offerings really go beyond that core site. We provide a really comprehensive suite of job distribution products to help our partners expand their reach, enhance value, and deliver ultimately more results to their employers. Um, in the past, a lot of job boards worked with Jobcase just to simply buy traffic from us. But
Mhm.
I think a lot of people don't realize is that in 2022, the company that I worked for, you mentioned Recruitology, and our suite of products was acquired by Jobcase. So
Mm.
our team essentially became the channel sales team or the Jobcase for partners team. And this kind of transformed the way that we were working with our partners. Um, Recruitology created a really great suite of job distribution products. And we just got to build on that when we became a part of Jobcase. So, you name a source, we can likely distribute jobs there, and not just organically sponsored jobs. Um, a significant number of our partners have come to us because they're struggling to generate enough traffic or results for their employers' jobs. And so, what a lot of our partners do is resell our white labeled job distribution solutions that can be sold under your brand in conjunction with your own products. And the goal is obviously to help you meet employer expectations and grow your own business, or grow your own revenue and business.
Mhm.
So yeah, you actually have here some really good information pulled up, and I'll put a link in the chat as well. But we have multiple solutions. Jobcase.com itself and Max Recruit are really our two main product offerings. Max Recruit is a programmatic job posting that gets distributed out to sites like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor. So essentially, all the major aggregator sites. But the technology is shifting the budget behind the posting to the sites that are getting the best results and the best ROI. So it's a really great option for a lot of our partners and their employers. We have some social products. We have some niche networks, so industry networks, as well as affinity groups like diversity, social, veteran. So yeah, a really great suite of products that job boards can resell to employers to help boost that traffic.
Okay, so I, as a niche job board owner, can, let's say I want more exposure for a job listing. What does that integration look like, Rachel? Explain that to me, how that would work with your product and let's say I'm on like what if I'm on like a job board software already? Would I
Yeah.
still be able to integrate with you or not?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do not have to power your job board to partner. We have plenty of partners who have their own job board software, and then we'll integrate our options into their maybe e-commerce packages, or if they have reps reselling or selling, those reps can sell as well. Sometimes people will rename the product. We just recently launched a partnership with a job board called Dental Post, and they have basically added some of our products into their e-com packages
Mhm.
behind the scenes. So they're not necessarily going out there and saying, this is Jobcase's products. They're adding them into their current offering with their current products.
Like a premium job posting maybe, or
Yeah, yeah. So premium job posting, um, and there should be options on there. I'll actually put, there's another really good one, Chronicle of Higher Education. So if you go to higher,
let me put a link in the chat for this one. Highereducation.com.
it's higher.chronicle.com.
Higher. or is it HIRE?
Yep, Ari
Hire
Chronicle.
Chronicle. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Chronicle.com.
It's
Chronic
LECLE instead of AL.
CLE. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they have, this is Chronicle of Higher Education. So they're like an association. So right here, if you scroll down, their basic postings are just their products, but then that extended network that you see, that's our product.
Gotcha. Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, we can white label it. You can put it into your, your current job board software. We do not have to power your job board.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm
Awesome.
curious, Rich, JobCase has a lot of clients, a lot of traffic. What are you currently seeing in the marketplace right now? Like what type of jobs or niche job boards are doing well, that there is a lot of jobs available? What does the data show at JobCase right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I thought it was interesting too, the beginning of the conversation talking about the current hiring landscape and the tariffs and just uncertainty, coming into this year. We have a lot of partners. We have a lot of media partners as well, who are working with us. And when we ask our partners, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? It's a lot of what you guys were mentioning. People holding off, people not sure of what's to come with everything that's going on. And so, just hesitancy overall. We're still seeing a really great numbers. I would say March looked a lot more optimistic, after January and February. So that makes me hopeful. But it's a wide range of industries. I would say that those within, diversity, equity, inclusion, like you guys were talking about, there's a lot of uncertainty there, unfortunately. But thankfully, a lot of private companies are still dedicated to diversity initiatives. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. A lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what
appreciate
does,
Yep.
oh, sorry, I'll ask one more question, Chris.
Go ahead.
I'm very interested in what's going on at JobCase always. So I'm just curious what JobCase is seeing. Like, what are you guys working on for the future? Obviously, there's a lot of innovation out there, and JobCase has been around for a long time. So I'm curious, is there anything specific that you guys are focused on executing in the near future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know how much I can share, but I know everybody's.
Share all of it.
I
We
know.
promise no one will say anything.
Right.
I won't tell Fred. Yeah. Fred
Yeah,
Goss.
don't tell Fred. No, but we're doing a lot with LLMs and AI in general. Like I said, I don't know what details I can quite share yet. And I know everybody's into AI and getting into AI, but some of the stuff that I've seen has been really cool. I think there's also at JobCase a big focus on um, less on the employers and more on just helping job seekers, helping the worker. So I've seen a lot of really cool stuff that we're doing within the, AI and LLMs, that is focused on how can we empower workers, which I think is really cool.
Awesome. Well, Rachel, we appreciate time today, and thanks for the quick tour. Put links in there for everything. Put your email address too in the chat if you would for the audience. And yeah, thanks for telling us about JobCase and what you guys offer.
Pleasure to
Yeah,
meet you, Rachel.
You too.
Awesome. All right here.
Great.
Okay.
On that point, I think this is a perfect segue to what we'll cover next, right? Focusing on the job seeker for job boards is absolutely critical. I think they have the right approach. I think we should all have that approach. If your job seekers are happy, you have an audience, you'll be able to get clients, right? It's all about the leads that you're generating.
Yes, I want to talk about like community site versus job board software, because as a job board consultant, I get a lot of newbies coming to me and asking, what kind of software should they choose? Which should I go with, Smart Job Board or JBoard or whatever it is, right? And sometimes, not always, but sometimes I look at them at their niche that they're going after, and I say, okay, do you really need a job board right now to satisfy this urge of a niche you're going after, right? And I can make a case for a lot of job boards, new job boards, to build an audience first, because that's the hardest part about starting a job board business today. It's not the employers. The employers are easy to find. They're out there. They're hiring. You know where to find them, Serge, right?
Yeah.
They're on the other job boards. They're on LinkedIn. They're easier to find. What's hard today are these job seekers and getting them to come to your site and convert them. And so to me, converting them means building a community today, right? That community feel, right? And that can be a few different things out there, but content's part of that, of course. Any new job board has to have content to drive seekers. Oyster Link is a great example of that. And new job board that just came out. They spent a year building up content and did it enough to where they had 200,000 monthly visitors coming to the site every month through content, right? That's part of it. But there are software out there that you can build an audience with, and that's community software. Mighty Networks is one of them. Mighty Networks is what powers pro.jobboardsecrets.com, for example. And it's great. Members can join, they can talk to each other. You can have different spaces in there for different channels. You can go live in it inside of that software. And you can do courses in there depending on the level of software you get. And so that software, Mighty Networks, Circle is another one here down here I've highlighted. Oops. Circle, I think it's circle.so, whatever. But those softwares are inherently good for building an audience and building a community. And that's why I think you could build that first and then add the job board later on a subdomain, jobs.whatever.com, right? You don't have to have just job board software. And that's what I want to talk about here. I think it's an avenue I think more of you should explore. I had a client, they were trying to build a job board for student athletes. And I thought that was a good example of that, something that could be a community first, not just a job board. Like spend a year building up an audience, creating an audience. And community software is excellent at doing that. I've done it twice now. I had an e-bike when I launched my e-bike YouTube channel a few years ago. I launched a sister site or companion community site called eBike Strong, and I advertised on Facebook. I got tons of signups with that thing. I was getting 10, 20 people a day coming into that thing, and they're all sharing their e-bikes, things like that, right? It's inherently good at driving community and building an audience. And so I wanted to put that out there as an idea for people thinking about starting a job board today. You may not need job board software. So what are your initial thoughts about that, Serge?
Well, I agree with you. And you think about how people get jobs now, and there's still like job boards are very important. The whole process is still the number one place that job seekers want to go to look for jobs. But putting that aside, a lot of the people that find jobs, it's part of a community, it's part of a network, it's part of like-minded individuals that they are in the same industry and they're sharing. Like I think about every job that I've ever had has been based on my network and the communities that I've built. So to your point, building an audience is really hard for a job board. I think everyone on this call will attest to that. Getting job seekers to consistently come is going to be challenged. But if you do create that community with some really good content, some events, like there's so much you can do in that particular case to kind of create that community, keep them engaged, that turning on a job board a year in after you've like is going to work, because those folks that are engaged in community are going to check your job board. If you start the other way around, and it does work, right? Like people have started job boards and they eventually they get traffic. It takes a little while. Like I think we always underestimate how long it takes to build traffic overall. But if you do it the opposite, I'm a big supporter of this. And anyone that would come to me saying, hey, I want to start a job board now, I would probably advise them like build a community, build the content, build the engagement, and then just flip the switch on a job board, because there is job board software you can activate really quickly in that sense. So I love everything you're saying. I'll say that I don't know much about Mighty Networks or Circle. I'm very curious how they work. I've never actually.
Let me show you guys a little back end of Mighty Networks to give you an idea. And by the way, I think too that hey, you could use an email list to try this as well.
Yeah.
Do a newsletter, essentially, build a community that way. But and I would say too that if I were running a job board software today, I would look at ways to integrate some of the features of a community software into my product. That's the number one thing I would do today if I was running JBoard or Smart Job Board or Niceboard or any of these other guys, is looking at stuff like that. Let the audience, let the members talk to each other a bit. You know, have an activity feed of what's going on inside the job board and things like that. Let people post, be able to post a quick posting on there. You're already collecting profiles
Yeah.
with job board software. Like just turn that into a public profile that people can message each other and put some rules in place there. But let me show you the back end of Mighty Networks a bit because I've used it twice now, and I'm only on the community platform. I pay like $50 a month, so it's the lowest form of product I can get. But give me 1 second here. Let me.
Well, for job boards, I think what's critical with when you look at your job seekers, if you're building a community, you're building higher intent job seekers, which is what employers are looking for, right? They're
Yep.
already involved in the community. They're already like interested. They dig in the articles. So when jobs do come up for your employers, if they apply, it's definitely more high intent than like leveraging job seekers that have just come across at one particular time because they saw it through your just aggregation on another site or whatever the case is. It's really high quality traffic.
Here's the dashboard for Job Board Secrets Pro. When you log in, this is what I see as the owner. But on the left hand side, you have members, so I can see all the members here. I can see just mouse over them where they are. I think she's in Nao's there is in New Zealand, I believe. She's a client of mine. I can view her profile. I can chat with her, right? There's a feed. There's the activity feed of what's going on across all the different spaces, which are on the left over here. Dave asked a question today about what code he's using for his job board. It's kind of a legal thing for LLC stuff. So you can ask questions here, interact with any of the posts. It's free to join for the general discussion. If you want to pay the premium member, which is like $15 a month, you get access to the job board software. You get access to Ask Chris Anything. You can ask me questions. I'll reply pretty much on the spot. I'm on premium contents in here as well. So I post a piece of premium content every week, for example. I've got links out to some of my stuff, my YouTube, my ebooks. I can create more spaces in here if I want to. I can go live. So events are here. So I'm going to be exploring more of this. So when I go live, it just looks like, let me click it actually. Right here. I can go live. Here's what that looks like. And I name it. Oops, my camera's already in use, so it's not working there. But I can even have paid events if I'm on a higher paid plan with Mighty. But it's pretty cool. Like the tool, and there's like I get notices like every week. Hey, you visit Job Board Secrets Pro every day for 3 days in a row. Come back again. Like it's gamifying me. It's prompting me to go back to the site, right? And that's part of it. It's built into the software. Some of the admin stuff's over here, which you can do. All the members are in here. You get badges. You set up your products. Custom navigation links. There's also email blast ability to all the members. I can do that. Even when I post something on the feed, I can notify all the members immediately. There's tags or badges you can have, private chats, the streaks. Here's the gamification piece of it. So I mean, I've only explored like probably half the stuff in here yet. I just launched this, back in December, I think.
I think there's so many different uses, and it doesn't need to look like this. You can build a community in whatever way you want, as well as far as obviously leveraging the software is great, and you should, but also what you're delivering and what type of conversations you're having. It could be a community site for people that work in, I don't know, nursing, and they talk about the challenges of the type of roles where they work. It can be kind of a venting place as well, depending on how your community grows, and what type of content, what type of experts that you have. And but there's a large opportunity, because if you can build that base of active community, the job board becomes easier, my opinion.
Yep. And
love it.
if you can build up an audience of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people, employers will pay for access to that eventually, right? Once you
Yes.
get there. But it's about critical mass with that. That's why the first year. That's why I say it takes a year to build any kind of job board audience, no matter what niche you're going after. It just takes time, right? It takes
Well,
time.
you have a lot of experience with this. I'm curious. Is on average to grow some type of mass when it comes to job seekers for a normal job board, what does it look like? Like a couple of years? How much money do you need to invest to be able to attract and kind of buy that audience? Like what does that look like for a niche?
Well, ideally, it's a minimum year to establish yourself and see if the first year is about proving a need exists for your site, right? Does the market really need that? And that takes a year to find out, I think. Um, overall. So on terms of making money, it's more like 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
You can make money initially, depending on what niche you're going into, how much of a network you have already in that field, things like that. So it's possible. A lot of it depends on the job board owner. If you're a newbie in the space, if you don't know internet marketing, you're going to have a rougher time with it. It's going to take you much longer than someone who knows marketing. That's why I see a lot of a lot of job boards. The number one creator of job boards are like developers. I found
Yes.
there's some kind of tech developer, right? They have an idea or they got frustrated and they built their own job board. So they're sort of the number one creator I've seen out there that succeed. Um, the guy from Remote OK, which is like the most successful niche job board, I think, from a one man standpoint, was a developer, I believe. And the guy who started Rails Devs, which is like a Rails reverse job board, is a developer, right? So they're the number one creator of job boards I've seen be successful.
Yeah,
But
it's
they also know other developers, right? So
yeah.
they inherently have these networks already built in. So that's why I have a client. If you have I have a client in a certain industry who's like maybe a staffing firm and they have a niche built up and they have like 10,000 resumes of these people. They're a good person to start a job board because they're already known in that space, right? They already have connections there, you know.
Well, it's kind of a chicken and egg situation, right? So
Yeah.
you start a job board, you're very good at sales. Let's say you're very good at sales, you start selling job ads. Well, it's kind of useless because you are not going to deliver any candidates unless you have traffic and job seekers coming to your site. There's no point. So building your audience first is absolutely critical. There's a question here. How about affiliate marketing for influencers in the TA and HR space?
Yeah. So that's it's a good question. Yeah. I mean, if it's a general TA person, and there's tons of what I would call HR influencers. You and I are among those, Serge. I would call us influencers in the space. There's guys like Tim Sackett. There's Chad and Cheese, right? From the Chad and Cheese podcast. Anybody has a podcast in the space is essentially an influencer. Um, but yeah, the more you can leverage them, JT O'Donnell from Work It Daily is another one that I would throw out there. Joel Alge from the Realist Recruiter. He's got a pretty popular uh,
Well, he's very popular. So
podcast.
there's two types of influencers, right? So Joel Alge, let's use him as an example. I'm co-host with him on the HR Morning Show. He's got 1 million followers, social
He's got a
media,
million, yeah. That's crazy.
and the majority are job seekers, right?
Yes.
So partnering with someone like Joel to drive traffic or doing some type of content, but he's got to be careful in the type of content that he does as well, because content that is overly advertised doesn't generally do well for him. But if you're targeting job seekers, perfect. He's the person or someone like him that has a large job seeker audience. Then there's folks like you, Chris, that have a large audience, but your audience is more focused on the practitioners, the job boards, HR folks, talent acquisition folks. You can leverage influencers in that particular case to get potentially in front of TA folks, people that are following Chris, that listen to his podcast. So there's two different ways you can but in saying that, you can leverage that across the board. You can leverage influencers for job seeker acquisition, but also on the flip side for business development. There's an interesting company out there, Flockity.com, that
I was
leverages
gonna mention that, yeah.
influencers to advertise jobs. And basically, the business model, as far as I understand it, is the job is shared by, let's use Joel Algy. I think he's an influencer on that platform, and he gets paid per to click on that particular job. So they've basically created this whole network of influencers in particular industry. They have influencers, say, in supply chain and nursing and cases too. And that is actually a really good strategy overall. If you are, let's say, nursing, finding those TikTok accounts or large influencers of nursing and engaging those folks to sponsor your content, share your content, or anything particular makes a lot of sense as well for an audience.
Yep.
The site is flockity.com.
I'll put it in the chat there. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Let's move on to our next topic, Serge. We are 2 hours in, 1 more hour to go. It's flying by, man. Feels like it's only been like 20 minutes so far.
As people listening are falling asleep, but hopefully not, right?
How we doing, guys? Let's hear in the chat there. You guys ready for 1 more hour? Let's see. We got 24 people here. Very cool. We talk about monetizing the seeker. And Brandon, you're up, man, from Right C, my advertiser, my client here. I'm going to get a quick word from him, and we'll talk about monetizing the seeker out there.
Oh, there is the
There he
man.
is.
And how you doing?
Looking sharp, looking sharp.
Appreciate it. Look, feeling good. This week was Monday was my birthday, so it was an extra good week.
That's
Nice.
perfect. Well,
Yeah.
let's kick off. First of all, it's great to see you, Brandon. Tell us a little bit more about RightC for the people that have no clue what you are, what you do. Would love to give them some idea of what RightC is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen for a quick second. I think it'll be really easy to just kind of understand. But basically, RightC is a platform where we're really looking to partner with recruitment marketplaces, job boards, talent communities to do one thing, or I'd say two. One, to increase their revenue, and two, to really improve their candidate engagement and that candidate experience. I don't come from like the recruitment marketing space, but I was an ex-career coach, and I'm a big advocate for job seekers. And I always was fascinated by the fact that I always felt like just job boards just didn't do enough for job seekers. So we came into the industry looking to just solve just that piece, and we found a way that we could, monetize the job seeker in a way that they'd like to be monetized, and then also it's a win-win-win for everybody. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell, and what that looks like. There's a lot of different ways, but I'll just show one just kind of quick example that I always like to show because it's super simple. And it's kind of how we potentially help job boards with that revenue piece of it, because we know it's important. P&L is important, but also giving job seekers delightful and wonderful products is really important, and they'll pay for that, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and just share this like kind of 1-minute video, because I think this really, really helps, and it'll encapsulate everything. And then they'll talk about, kind of what we do a little bit after that. But I think this will be really, really helpful for folks, and to see some really innovative things that are going on right now with within the kind of job seeker space. Now I want to see if I can share my computer sound. I don't know. I don't see the.
Hey, what's up?
Is it gonna let me share this? Can you guys hear this?
Meet Job Search Genius.
Yeah.
An AI-powered platform designed to save you time and help you land more interviews. From crafting perfect resumes, generating personalized cover letters, acing interviews, to negotiating salaries. It's all here. Let's start with the resume. Upload one or create one from scratch. You can edit all your personal details, but here's where the magic happens. With just a click, the rewrite feature provides enhanced suggestions for bullet points that instantly make your resume more compelling. Need help creating or optimizing your LinkedIn headline or career story? No problem. Job Search Genius does it for you, instantly. Now, on to cover letters. Select your resume and a job, and within seconds, a customized cover letter is ready. You can adjust names, tone, or length with ease, turning a time-consuming task into something quick and efficient. Preparing for interviews? Just enter the job description. and Job Search Genius generates relevant questions and sample responses to help you prepare. You can even simulate a real interview and get feedback on your delivery, nonverbal cues, and vocabulary. Detailed reports show exactly where you can improve, question by question. Overwhelmed by your job search? With Job Search Genius, tracking your applications has never been easier. Instantly see your progress, stay on top of follow-ups, and keep your job search organized and efficient. Take control of your job hunt with Job Search Genius, the smarter way to stay on track. And when it's time to negotiate your salary, Job Search Genius goes beyond helping you craft the perfect counteroffer. Our AI salary negotiation assistant reviews and negotiates key job details like vacation, compensation, work schedule, and benefits, ensuring you get the best offer with just a few clicks. In short, Job Search Genius simplifies every step of your job search. It's powerful, it's fast, it's efficient. Start your free trial today at Job.
So yeah, there it goes. Full suite of tools. We charge as a SaaS model. So when we partner with job boards, they can choose daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. You can set your own prices, throw your logo on it, your color scheme, and we're basically a multi-million-dollar software AI agency that's building incredible tools. And then you can basically white label this and give it to your audience. Or if you don't want to white label it, you could just use it as Job Search Genius, connect it to your audience, and the conversion rates are just insane. People are looking for low cost, great AI tools for their career. So that's what we do. We literally partner with job boards, get their candidates great tools, white labeled or non-white label, set it up in a few days. And it's been wonderful to see the amount of revenue that we've been able to produce for job boards by just doing that. And so just really looking at the candidate side. And then in addition to this, if you've heard of us before, we also can give a free resume review as well. So before they even get access to the tool, we can give them a free resume review and then upsell them on this tool to help them with their holistic job search. So yeah, really just nifty job search technology. We really want to see more people get employed faster and have great tools, because there's a lot of bad tools out there. There's a lot of noise out there. So really on the job seeker side.
So Brandon, I'm curious as far as your business model itself. So you're working with job boards directly, and I think you're dealing with job seekers separately as a different aspect of your business. But are job boards leveraging this as a value add to their clients, or is that something that they're charging to their job seekers? Like, what have you seen?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll give a free review or a free trial. And then at a certain point, the job seeker might want to continue to use it, and then they'll pay a few dollars a month. And so we have a pretty large conversion rate from, hey, here's a 3-day free trial to this amazing software that you can do a lot of things. And then if you want to keep it, all right, pay $15, a week, or, $20 a month. And, that's just the model. And so it's a way for them to add value because they can get a free trial. And then, have a great product that people would love to pay for.
Could job boards leverage this and pay you and offer this as a completely free service to all their job seekers? As because I know for a lot of niche job boards to build this out, you've been building it for a long time, right? Like, it's not easy. But I can see this as definitely value for job boards, adding additional benefits to coming to your site.
That's also possible. A separate part of our business that has been growing over the last year is we also sell the complete suite to educational institutions. So like Stanford University, University of Southern California, Arizona State, Texas, Southern University, North Carolina, A&T. Those are institutions that are also, in your case, they'll pay us and then they'll give it to their users for the value add purposes. So it can be a tool to add revenue if you have a ton of job seekers and you'd like to get additional revenue, or to your point, additional value. But from our conversations, more job board owners are more interested in making money. So it's kind of best of both worlds. You can help people and you can make money, and I think that's where we like to play.
And Brandon, job seekers are willing to pay for this stuff. That's why this is on my list as a resume service for seekers. But like, what would you say is the optimum price point for something like this, in your opinion?
I think for our Job Search Genius software suite, anywhere between $20 to $50 a month. And then we've had a lot of success with this like $15 a week option. I mean, the numbers
Yeah, the
are
weekly thing is interesting to me. They like that.
numbers are
It's
ridiculous on,
yeah.
on the weekly option. And it's so simple. We just turn it on, we can throw your logo on it, and tomorrow now you have a great AI product that you can put in front of your audience and instantly monetize. So it's been great. But yeah, job seekers love it.
What's the
And
rev share there for the job board?
yeah, so we typically do like 70-30 when we you know, so 30% rev share for the job boards. If you're like a high value partner, we can typically negotiate up, and we'd see that over time. But yeah, imagine us as your multi-million-dollar AI development agency that's building incredible job search tools, and you just get the benefit, right? And so yeah, it's been great for us, and job seekers love it. And we just launched a way where inside of the tool we can even pull your jobs in as well. So there's some things that we're working out there inside of the tool. It can also have your jobs. So some really cool things that we're doing, and job seekers love it. And then even to, you know, Rachel's point before, we are working with a lot of educational institutions, MBA programs, law programs, community colleges. And so I'm also interested in getting feeds to put in front of those audiences that are just untapped job seekers. Like I'm getting the job seekers that's just getting ready to go for their first job or their job moving forward. So yeah, happy to chat both ways on that. I see it.
I love that. We've got a couple of questions in the chat that I want to bring up. So one of them is from Sylvie, and I'm assuming she's going to ask, she's asking because she's in Quebec and French is the main language. How many languages do you support, Brendan?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So English is natively supported, but on most browsers, you can just click the button and it'll translate everything. And then for some of the mock interview simulation features, by the middle of Q3, we'll have French, Spanish, Chinese, etc. So when you're simulating interviews, it'll be in different languages. But today you could just click a button and it'll translate.
Yeah. Angie wants your contact info, Brian. If you want to put that in the chat there, that'd be great.
Yeah, so Angela Anderson has a question of how many can be done. So say she's a job board, she wants to offer this as a value-added service. Is there like an unlimited plan that they could purchase from you? What does that look like if they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can have that, we can take that conversation offline, but yes, we can say, hey, and you can even do giveaways like, hey, we'll give away, you know, 10 Job Search Genius licenses a month if you do this or that. Or it could, again, if you just want to provide it for all candidates, that's also an option as well. We could give everyone a 7-day free trial, or it could be unlimited. So I just probably want to talk a little bit deeper about the use case. That's definitely possible as well.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, appreciate it. Again, thank you very much for sponsoring Job Board Secrets, and I love what you guys are up to there, man.
Absolutely. I'm going to drop my LinkedIn in the chat as well as my email.
Yeah, definitely do that. Yeah. Please connect with Brandon, everyone. All right.
Really cool stuff.
So
before we go a little bit further, Chris, there's a couple of questions that came into the Q&A. I figured this is a good time to answer it. So the first question, I think is a really good one for you, Chris, is, are there standard metrics to which we should strive? As an example, how much traffic for niche job boards, number of applications per posting, etc.
Yeah. So, okay. So So traffic wise, you should be looking at page views, you know, registered users, registered seekers, all that stuff. So the apply rate today in the industry is 6% for the user. So meaning for every 100 clicks to a job listing, 6 people will apply. Okay.
Yes.
That's kind of the minimum standard. So if you're doing anything better than that, you're doing a great job, because that's the hard metric out there that you have to look at. Getting people to apply to a job listing is one of the hardest conversion rates in the space. It's even lower than typical e-commerce, I believe, which is like 10%. And when they want to buy something. So that's where that metric is at.
I think that's a big value proposition, though, as you're doing prospecting, because generally, if you have a niche job board, you have very high intent job seekers. Your audience is coming to your site because they're very focused on the type of jobs and industry that they're looking to apply for. So 6% is the industry average. But so say you're doing 25%, that should be a key point that you should be putting it out there in your
Mhm.
prospecting, being like, hey, we convert 20%, 25%. Obviously, it's a conversation, but it's a huge value in that end. Conversion rate to me is one of the
Yeah.
most
And so that
important.
means you're going to need thousands of monthly visitors to generate really enough applies for a single listing, right? You're talking about, you know, my kind of milestone is like, you know, if you can get to 10,000 monthly seekers within a year, that's a pretty good start for whatever
Yeah.
industry you're serving. With 10,000 monthly seekers, you should be able to generate enough applies so that employer is at least sees that it's working. The perception is that it's working. They're getting some candidates, right? It may not be
Yeah.
the you may not be sending them 20% of your traffic as candidates, but if you can get to like a 10% apply rate after, so you're off to a decent start at least, right? So 10,000 is kind of my milestone for a job.
Is that your milestone? 10,000 unique
Yeah,
visitor month to your
yeah,
site? Yeah.
yep.
You'll
After a
need
year,
that,
yep.
which is very
Getting
hard to do.
yes, getting it 2 to 3,000 visitors is pretty easy. I could do that. I could do that all
Yeah.
day long. What's hard to do is like three to 10. That's where the effort comes in, content and all that stuff. So
We have another, she also said number of applications per posting. Obviously, that also goes in how you're positioning
and also
to,
too, there's apply clicks versus applies. Most jobs today on job boards are apply clicks because you redirect that seeker. That means that then they have to apply in wherever the ATS is for that employer. So at that board, you've done your job as a job board. You've made that apply click happen.
yes.
So that the apply click rate should be higher than a typical application rate because at that point you're just sending clicks over to the ATS, right?
Well, you have to put that in perspective too, right?
Mhm.
Like your site might be very easy to click apply, then you end up on Workday. The job seeker ends up on Workday and it's a 40-minute application.
Right.
You're going to get drop off at that particular stage as well. And this is where communication with the employer, making sure that they're very well aware of the traffic that you're driving to their site. There's also another question, Chris. So, has anyone had luck selling access to job seeker databases to recruiters, headhunters? What are you charging per month? What's the recommended model? I'm going to put that out, please. Anyone in the chat, if you're doing that, would love to hear what you're doing and how much you're charging. I have
I
quite a
have
bit
some
of
thoughts on that too. Yeah.
experience in doing this. So, but Chris, resume database.
So
What?
first of all, in order to sell a resume database, you have to have a lot of resumes in there.
Yes.
Number one, that's the first thing. So it is about critical mass. Like if you're in the marketing space, and you don't have like 10,000 marketers in there, I'm not going to pay for that as a recruiter. Secondly, I did just see Tauru made a deal with Hire EZ where Tauru is sending some of their blue collar seekers they're collecting the resume and they're sending that resume into Hire EZ now, which is a sourcing platform.
Yeah.
So they're one of the first. They're a job board they're a big job board aggregator that has a couple million visitors, I think. And they're getting. Dad told me he was getting the CEO was getting 20,000 job seekers a week, maybe something like that.
Resume?
Signing a resume, something like that. And they're pushing all that data into HireZ as a sourcing tool now. Now I'm sure they're charging HireZ for that data. I don't know what they're charging them for, but like that's an example. If you have a lot of resumes, you can give them to a sourcing tool like HireZ or Seekout, having them include them in search results. That's one way of looking at it. Or you could charge access directly. Indeed used to do $1 a contact. I don't know what they're doing today, but that was one way they first initially monetized that database. And so, those are some of the ways they're doing it now.
I agree completely. It's all about the volume of resumes, and Sylvie points out, and I agree with this, the freshness of the resumes. Like, how are they updated? How quickly? Is it someone that put a resume 4 years ago? There's still value to that resume. Don't get me wrong. But this is why, even if you don't plan on selling a resume database or leveraging registration for any job seeker applying for a job, even if you're redirecting, to me is absolutely critical for job boards. Because if you're just redirecting to the company career site, you gathering no information, It's really hard to market to that job seeker. It's really hard to build a candidate resume database. Like all of these factors are absolutely critical. And this is where a tool like what Brandon has, as far as that's helping job seekers, this might be a really good time that you register, you have access to. I'm selling RightSeed for Brandon here, but say you register, you now have access to a resume review or whatever the case, anything you can do to drive value so they want to register to your site is critical. The other element is, like, if you're going to sell a resume database, make sure you're keeping it current. Even if that means like reaching out to the job seekers that have a resume to see if anything has changed, like keeping engaged with them in any particular way is important.
Yep. All right, let's finish out this segment here, sir. We got 12 minutes left for our last one. Let's see here. So first of all, AdSense. So first of all, use minimally with AdSense. Only use it if you have traffic. I know Brian, I put Brian Fox on it at Trusted Herd last year. He's making some decent money off of that. But it's only good for really if you have a lot of traffic. Same thing with backfill. collegerecruiter.com is now all backfill and CPC. That's how they earn money today. They have tons of traffic, so they can monetize that pretty easily. But if you have a new job board making money off backfill, it's just a trickle of cash. It's not much at all. You're talking like, pennies on a dollar, basically. So some of it depends on traffic that you have. Ebooks and courses, depending on I sold ebooks when I ran my local sites. I created these little, guides to finding work in the area, where I listed top employers. I listed, some of the resume coaches I knew in the area, things like that. I sold it for $10 each, and I sold like, I don't know, 5 or 10 of those a month. And to me, it was just like free money, and it didn't take a lot of effort.
What's your thoughts around the courses, though? Because I know
Depending on the niche, it has to be a niche that is maybe a little harder to get into, or takes some skilling to get in there. Like nursing, right? Like how to become a nurse. Like that's a good course you could do, because people have to go to school for that, and what's involved with that, right? So, what's it take to become a nurse? That would be a great course to do if I was running a nursing job.
Well, I've seen actually sites, and there is one here in Canada called Charity Village that which is a job board. Sylvie would actually know it. Annex Workopolis is the CEO. And the greater part of their revenue strategy is the courses. And they make a lot more from the different sessions they do. It's not only courses, but it's very specific learning sessions, training. I guess training is another one that could be added on there, but it drives a significant portion of their revenue, way more than they do from the actual job advertising. So that's another avenue looking as far as how you can monetize.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in the ZipRecruiter segment about lead gen for some of these course providers out there as well. So that's in there. I wanted to mention feature resumes. If you have a resume database, you should be able to charge seekers to feature that resume. I've done this on a number of clients. It's easy money. It's there for the taking. It's not a lot, again, but if it's $5, $10, they're willing to pay for that stuff. So a simple example is just having them feature the resume for, say, 30 days or 60 days, or maybe for the year if you want to do that, or something a short period really is what they're looking for. But that puts it at the top of the listing. Like on Smart Job Board, you can do that on their software. It highlights their list, highlights the resume, and it puts it on the top of the other resumes for a fee. Okay. They can post a resume for free, of course. They should always have that. But you should give them the option of featuring their resume. And you'll get.
What's your thoughts around that monetizing job seekers? That used to be very taboo.
Used to be taboo, not anymore, sir. Times are changing.
Because LinkedIn is the primary driver of that.
Exactly,
like literally, they are monetizing job seekers.
They charge $30 a month. I mean, that's and I don't think it's even that good of a product in terms of what you get for that. So,
but you feel good, like it's not an issue anymore, you think?
Yeah, because to me, like you make it cheap, right? I don't care if you're charging a seeker $10 to feature their resume. That's like, that's not ripping them off. That's just adding some value to their search for a price that's easily swallowable. And again, it's free money for you. Like if you're not tapping into that today, you're losing out on a few $100 a month, or if you're a one-man job board that adds up. It might pay for your software eventually, right? Once you
Mhm.
have it there. So that's the point there. Similarly, like Job Wanted, like with ranch work, we had Peter on the show, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And he has the whole Job Wanted section on ranchwork.com. Go check it out, where you can go and post a job wanted as a seeker. I love that approach. It's kind of like a feature resume almost, but it's kind of like public, and there's a whole, you can see the publicly listed job wanted entries. Side note, I always want to create like a jobwanted.com, where I just do that. I'd love to build that one day. But there's no
It
software out
has
there that
been
can do it.
attempted. It has been attempted, I'm
Has
sure.
it?
I
I,
I I remember some of
but I
it,
want to
but
get like jobwanted.com. That would cost me like, 20 grand probably. So, but
yes.
yeah, kind of a general one when you could backfill it with jobs and earn some money. But anyway, that's another story for another day.
Well, a little bit on that. There was a company here in Canada that did that reverse job board with job seekers, but it was all videos, right? Like for anyone to submit
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
profile, they submit their resume, but then they
There
submit
was
their
one called,
video
was
type,
it Goldie.com or
something like that. Yeah,
there was
it
one
didn't work. It didn't
yeah.
last. But video, this is 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, that's when
Video
the video thing was big. That yeah, everybody was trying to be. There was one called, I think it was a client of mine out of New York City. I want to say Goldie or something with gold in it. She had a short domain, and she built a video job board essentially. It's somewhere if you search Goldie or gold on my blog, it's in there somewhere. I think I wrote about it. And it was all about job seeker video resumes and jobs as resume or job posting videos. And she tried to make that work, but and that's back when the video was the craze of the day. So, and the last thing is just paywall. Get Outdoor Jobs. I did an interview with Kyle back then. He's making one guy. He's bringing in, I don't know, 600, 700, $800 a month, something like that, as a side project. And that's another way to monetize those seekers. It's basically putting a paywall in front of jobs that are kind of harder to find or more interesting, that type of things. Jobs in Sports did that a while back. Flex Jobs did that with remote jobs. The remote jobs is not really, there's still a couple of remote job boards out there that charge you, but there's plenty of other free remote job boards out there too. So,
Well, it kind of goes. We have a question that just came in. Do you have any success examples of a job board monetizing job seekers, featured resume, paywall, etc.?
yeah, I would
I
listen
think
to
that's
Ranch
what you're
Work for
talking
Job
about.
Wanted. I
Yeah.
think SEOjobs.com has it as well. Job Wanted. And then Get Outdoor Jobs, go check that out, .com, for the paywall thing. And he charges weekly too. He has a weekly price point, which I think is his number one product that he sells. It's like, I don't know, $7 a month, $7 a week or something like that. And that's great because job seekers have more of a short-term thinking, right? So a weekly product is an excellent gateway, I think, to monetizing them.
But the only challenge I have with that, Chris, is how transient and the turnover that you're dealing with as a business, right? Like you're constantly like remarketing, reselling those $7 a week if they,
Yeah, but it is a way to make money right away, essentially, initially, versus, getting the paid postings, which takes a little bit longer. So if he's adding value by curating these jobs that,
yeah.
or forever on Indeed or whatever. So that's the value he's providing, with a paywall job board. So if you can add value that way, maybe offer some other services on top of that, maybe a community, whatever, things like that, right? You can get away with that. So.
Hmm.
All right here. Cool. That answered the question. Yeah. So any other thoughts on making money off seekers? I mean,
Well,
anybody else in the
Brendan
audience?
is saying LinkedIn Premium is a cash cow.
Yeah.
We're trying to be the same. It makes sense because honestly, if you asked me 3 years ago of monetizing the job seeker, I would have been yuck. Like
Yeah,
I don't
5 years ago, you could not do this stuff, but now the next generation of seeker is willing to pay for small, pay a small amount for certain things like their resume services. I mean, they're getting funding now. Teal, Final Round. These guys are getting funding for charging seekers. And so once that happens, that the tide is turning there.
Well, we
Shift
see it
happening
with
in
the
job
lazy
market.
apply tools, right?
Yes.
I don't think people understand how popular the lazy
Because the
apply.
job search process sucks so much that now people are willing to pay for tools that help them.
Well, that
That's
apply
the
for
key.
thousands of jobs for them.
Mhm.
I am not a fan of that industry at all. I think it's actually the worst thing for job boards because you're getting bombarded with very low intent job seekers, which drives your clients crazy.
Yep.
But I think like charging them for something really value added,
Yeah,
such
like
as
what Right Seas does. They do mock interviews, resumes, cover letters. That's value added services.
yeah,
Seekers see now before they had to go to a career coach or a resume writer
yeah.
and do that and make an appointment and go see that person. Now you can do it with AI, and that's I love that model. And those companies are going to be successful, and they're going to be bought as well. We'll talk about that in the next segment too, I think.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, okay, so we got one more session here, and let me bring it up here. Where is it? And we're going to talk about ZipRecruiter because if you haven't seen ZipRecruiter stock lately, well, it's in the toilet.
Yeah.
Let me
Well,
pull it up here.
I bought it at $22 at IPO. So I'm glad I didn't put my life saving into it because I think the latest was 5. I've stopped looking at it. I think
Yeah,
it's
well, it was
$5.
okay. So, 622 went up
Oh.
25 cents.
Rich. I'm rich.
But let's look at the 5-year plan for this thing. So ZipRecruiter. So first of all, this is all constructive criticism for ZipRecruiter. I don't know if you're going to watch this or not, but I want ZipRecruiter to be a buffer against the Indeeds of the world because Indeed is powerful and almighty, and they like to throw their weight around. We need a good number 2, a good number 3, aggregator out there to as a buffer against the Indeeds and keep them in check. So that's why I want to talk about ZipRecruiter because they've been on a downward slide. Their stock has anyway, but their product has too. And I want to talk about how I would change that product. And feel free to chime in here, Serge. I know you have some thoughts on this as well. But let's look at the stock here. It launched at their peak in 2020. Let me see. I have the numbers here. In 2022, ZipRecruiter made $904 million right after COVID during that giant boom of hiring. Okay, today, that number is less than half. It's in the $400 million range in 2024. So they've lost half of their business in essentially 2 years because they're just not diversified. And they didn't come out with any new products. They've been stagnating their tool for many, many years. And that's kind of irked me a bit because we need them in there. We need them to be a number 2 against Indeed, right? Their podcasts their ads are still over all the podcasts out there. I hear them all the time. And
Which drive me crazy, right?
Yeah,
There is nothing more frustrating for a talent acquisition person. Your hiring manager comes to you and be like, well, just put it on Zip. We'll get thousands of applicants. That's what the ad says. And we all know that's not the case.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So the first thing that ZipRecruiter needs to do is they need to go private here because being a public company as a job board that has to deal with the ebbs and flows of the employment market is not a good thing. Just ask Monster, just ask Dice. Dice's stock is like $2 a share. And they're like they're like $150 million company, something like that. Right. So it's not a good place for job boards to be as a public company. It's just not going to, you're driven by short-term thinking and you're not thinking long-term here. And that's hurting ZipRecruiter right now. And they can't keep this up is the point here. And I think a lot of people are the same way. I ran into a few Zips a few weeks ago too, but I'm not going to talk about that. But so going private allows them to take out that chain around their neck about being a public company, right? So that's the first thing they need to do to get to. So I'm hoping a private equity company buys them and takes them private and refocuses on the product. Now, the product is really where I want to talk about because this is what I would do. So number one, I would go out and buy Teal. Let's say I'm a PE company. I just bought ZipRecruiter. First thing I do is I go to Teal or one of the other, maybe RightSeat, one of those guys. I would buy them, and I would change it to a ZipRecruiter product on day one.
And talk
Okay.
a little bit more what teal is for those that don't know.
Teal's like RightSea. They do. I can pull it up for the audience, but
They should just buy RightSea.
yeah, it's the same thing. There's a bunch of these tools. There's Resi, Teal, Final Round. I think it's this one here. Yeah, it's a resume builder essentially. It also tracks your application. It creates all kinds of stuff. Analyzes your resume builder, email templates, cover letters. It's basically a career coach, virtual career coach, essentially. That's what a lot of these
That's
tools
what
are.
Phil is like, because they have Phil, right?
Now, Phil is more of just their AI matching algorithm essentially inside of that. Like he's their onboarding tool. Like you log on to ZipRecruiter, Phil comes on and asks you, okay, what are you looking to do? What's your salary range? And they build a profile for you with AI and then match you against some of the job listings. That's what Phil is essentially.
Yeah.
But this is where like Indeed's going to buy one of these sites. Mark my words, in the next couple of years, because this is where job seekers are going. And these tools themselves are now becoming job boards. Like Teal they have job search in there, I believe, somewhere. They're adding backfill, and they're matching these seekers that they're getting. Teal has like 200,000 users on it. It's bigger than you think it is. I'm trying to get their CEO on my show. But these are tools that every job seeker should have. And I believe ZipRecruiter needs a tool like this to make them relevant again. Okay, that's the point here. Because Indeed's going to buy one of these. I'll mark my words. That's what they do. They buy this stuff. And they bought interview.com and they bought Simply Hire. And they buy these tools and they integrate them inside of Indeed. And this is what job seekers want today. So that's why I say that, this is something that ZipRecruiter would need, something like this, and give that ability for their seekers to create their resumes, have them analyzed, do mock interviews using AI to do that. So that's the first thing I would do if I were running LinkedIn today and I'd acquire them as a PE firm. So they need that. And also they can then charge for that too, right? It's part of it's diversifying the revenue stream. Making a paid ZipRecruiter account, just like LinkedIn does, but giving that seeker like more, a useful product around it, like for the resume, having multiple resumes, matching, doing mock interviews, showing me who's viewed my resume, on the system. And I can think of a lot of different, a nice dashboard for those seekers to have there, and charge them for that. I would pay $10 a month for a tool like this within ZipRecruiter. And Teal has proven that fact out. They're making money on this, right? And they're getting funding as well. So this is where job search is headed.
They just Teal raised 7.5 million Series A in January. So
yep,
thanks, Brendan, for that. I didn't know that.
Yep, they're the perfect takeover for an Indeed or a ZipRecruiter. I'm telling you. You could buy it today and put it on tomorrow, just change the labeling. And then you could integrate it with your job listings as a job board, right? And you could match them. You could instantly increase your applies and everything, So to me, it's a no-brainer for ZipRecruiter to do something like that as a product tool. You can monetize the seeker, add value to them, give away part of it for free or whatever, but that could be part of the premium ZipRecruiter product. And that's the first thing I would do if I were them. I would start to monetize that seeker with a product like Teal. All right. The second thing, courses. ZipRecruiter, any job board really isn't a place to suggest ways for their job seekers to improve their skill sets, right, Serge? You have the resume, you have the profile, what they lack, what they don't have. Suggest courses to them. So I think Indeed is actually doing this. Recently, there was someone had a post about they're doing some lead gen for Coursera, which is an online learning company. ZipRecruiter should be doing the same thing. In fact, there should be, like, when I join as a job seeker, I should get a list of recommended courses to improve my skill sets. And those links take me right to Coursera or lynda.com.
Well, isn't that what
places.
Indeed just announced that last week?
Yeah,
They
I didn't see
partnered, and I'm trying to remember who it is. It's not Coursera or Udemy, but it's one of those players where they're
Udacity, maybe it's one Udacity, is that it?
yes,
But
that
there are a number of these companies that they want students. Well, the job board is the perfect place to send them students
Yeah.
because those folks are looking to up their skills, right? This is a no-brainer. Like, why aren't they doing this? I mean, Indeed is now, but they just came out with that, last week. Like, what took them so long? This is natural, and you could earn money on that, right? Or maybe you could white label some of these products. I don't know if you can white label Udacity or whatever, but at the very least, send them traffic, earn money in that lead gen as a job board. That's the point here, right? Maybe you earn 10% for every course they sign up for, whatever it is, but that's free money. You're not selling anything. You're just suggesting to that seeker, okay, here's 5 courses that you may be interested in to build your skill set, to improve your chances of getting a job next time. And to me, that's a no-brainer. They have to be doing that. Have to. I don't see any way around it. Why wouldn't you do that? Right?
No, I agree. I 100% agree.
So yeah, so those are the main 2 ways I would monetize those seekers today. When it comes to employers, like I look at, the ATSs there. That's kind of my guideline for that, which is they have marketplaces.
All right, Poppy.
Brian, you're on. Meet Brian there. The ATSs have these marketplaces where you can go in as an employer and say, okay, I'm looking for a background screening tool, or I'm looking for an employer branding tool, or I'm looking for a payroll tool, right? They have these marketplaces built in where I can go in as and these ATSs earn money from those clicks and generate clicks or lead gen for those other software providers. So why not have a recruiting software marketplace for employers of ZipRecruiter? Now they had I don't know, 5 years ago, they launched an onboarding tool called Zip Hire. Do you remember that, Serge?
I do.
And they gave it up like within a year, I think. It wasn't working. So I don't know what the reasons were behind that. I was surprised it didn't actually work. Maybe they just didn't execute it properly. But at the very least, have a marketplace in there for onboarding tools and earn money in that stuff. Like there's a whole Workday ecosystem, and I think those vendors earn money from Workday for being in that marketplace,
Yeah, marketplace in the ATS world has been huge. Like you think about iCIMS really focused on their marketplace, Bullhorn on the staffing side. And it's also a place where they look for their acquisitions. If they're getting traction from one of the companies in the marketplace, is usually where they acquire first. I know Bullhorn, that's been a huge part of their strategy. There's no reason it couldn't be done on the job board side of it because you're dealing with direct employers, right? So not a bad idea.
Yeah. They need extra revenue here. That's the point here, right? They could be lead gen for these, a payroll provider or, whatever it is. They've got, millions of employers in there that have needs for other recruiting types of software and services. Like leverage that data, build your own marketplace for these employers and be lead gen for a payroll provider and a background check provider or whatever it is. Like that, to me, that's a no-brainer, and that's free money. They're not like this could be like the marketplace, the AI resume stuff. That could be a quarter of the resume and a quarter of their revenue, I think, eventually. They have to find new revenue sources. They can't rely just on employers anymore, because the market sucks right now, and it has sucked for 2 years. So what are they doing to increase their spend with the employers and seekers? Nothing right now. They've standed pat. They just came out with some kind of like screening tool, which is great, but it's not going to move the needle as far as revenue goes. And they're kind of they're already behind the times as far as the platform itself and what you can do on there and where the market is going. And so they really need to step up their game here and and change things.
Can I be very cynical?
Yes.
And just in the so all your ideas here are good, right? But you've been around this space for a long time. I've been around for a long time, and we have seen the inflow and outflow of large job boards, right? Like you think about going back to the original Hot Jobs, that was acquired by Yahoo, eventually really fizzled out when Monster came in play. Monster was the dominant force for many, many years. There was no recovery. The minute that they started losing job seekers, interest in the marketplace, they've been on a downward cycle, been sold a couple of times since then. I don't even know their presence right now. They're basically just buying and selling traffic from what I'm getting right now. I saw it working at Workopolis. The minute we started losing traction in the marketplace, we were never able to recover, no matter any strategy we put in place. Like we partnered with Appcast before Appcast was really Appcast it is today, to launch Applify, which was a product in Canada, which was programmatic advertising that we were selling in the market. We never gained traction again. So basically, Career Builder, like the list goes on and on and on. And I think with these major behemoths, when they get to a certain point, there is no more recovery. And I think, in my personal view, the only way that ZipRecruiter survives long term in any size and scale, Recruit Holdings, meaning Indeed, buys them. I still think that's going to happen one of these days. With no inside information, I've been predicting it for like the last 3 years.
Yep.
I don't think this works. I agree that potentially it could, but I don't think it's going to save ZipRecruiter long term. I think the only out for ZipRecruiter is that. Because if you look, like Indeed has gone, has had its struggle, like in the last couple 2 to 3 years. I think we've all seen it in some ways. But their renewed focus is really going down the funnel, getting closer to the actual hire. And there's many reasons why that is. The market for job recruitment advertising is around 30 billion. The job placement, staffing, recruitment industry is around $330 billion. So Indeed is trying now to grab that share of the marketplace, right? Like getting closer to the hire. I think it might work for them. I don't think Zip can do it. I don't think Zip, first of all,
Yeah, I don't know if they have the leadership in place to make this happen. First of all, I'll just say that.
no, he needs to go. He's done a good job of building Zip, the CEO. It's time for him to give
It needs some new blood. It needs a fresh, needs a refresh and some fresh blood in there and some but you need to worry about Indeed. I don't put Indeed, RecruitCo buying Indeed or buying ZipRecruiter one day.
No,
that certainly could happen. I don't know. It could happen. I'm saying it's like I don't disagree with you. I think it could. They've done that before. Like they bought Simply Hired, they bought Glassdoor. They love to take out competitors wherever they can. So I'd be surprised if they haven't asked already, right? Put it that way.
Well, I've worked for 2 companies that have been acquired by Indeed. So it's very common, like Workopolis and my CEO's past company, ClickIQ, which was programmatic, sold to Indeed in 2019. You are right. They do buy competitors to kind of just leverage what they have, right? But
and that would be a bad thing though, sirs. It would be bad for the industry because that means they would be that much bigger and have more weight to throw around, which we don't need anymore of that with Indeed.
I agree, but like it's the only real competition to Indeed, in my opinion, is and it's not one that's monetized, is Google for Jobs. It's the only one that I see that will give Indeed a lot of competition. Obviously, we could talk about Appcast. Appcast has grown into a really dominant player in the marketplace. That could be another player but it's a little bit of a different solution. It's not exactly a job seeker driven type of solution in that sense. So I think everything you mentioned here is perfect for a lot of job boards, and it would probably help ZipRecruiter. but I don't think that it's gonna turn the tide where they're going. They've lost half of the revenue in 2 years, which, in all fairness, a lot of job boards have lost revenue because the market has shifted pretty dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, every even Indeed, had their share of downfall there, right?
So
But
Angela just mentioned Zip Intro is a new product they launched. Actually, I'm looking at it right now, September 5th,
yeah,
20.
is it just like a scheduling thing? And it's
Ah,
Cheeseman called it like, hey, ZipRecruiter just came into 2017, whatever it is. But it's a product that they should have had, years ago.
yes. Well, I knew ZipRecruiter's in trouble. They launched a podcast, a company, and I do, for anyone listening, I do think podcasts, and I'm biased, is a great way to grow your thought leadership in a particular industry, right? Like it's a great business development tool for a lot of folks too. So say you have a
Yeah.
need, let's say nursing, and inviting top employers to talk about the challenges they have in hiring nurses or whatever the case is great. But Zip launched a podcast and it's got zero traction. It's unlistenable. And they have what, 2,000 employees or 4,000 employees, Zip.
Uh-huh.
And you go look on Apple Podcasts and they have like 4 reviews. I'm like, why not send a message to your employees and say, hey, you should go click you like this podcast. But anyways, that's
I think it's called Town All Stars, right?
Oh yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. I haven't listened to it, but I've seen the image there.
So my prediction though, my prediction is ZipRecruiter will be sold to Indeed before the end of the year. Again,
All right, you heard
last
it
spring.
here again. We're gonna you got what? You got 9 more months, Serge.
Yeah, we'll see what
And,
happens.
We'll see what happens there. So, all right, guys. I think we can end it there. I think we beat that ZipRecruiter tree dead there. But I appreciate you guys coming today, Serge. Thank you very much for helping me out.
Loved it.
And I'm gonna do. By the way, I'm doing an article on the whole ZipRecruiter thing next week. So stay tuned for that. It's a pretty long article, so it's gonna more details in terms of how I would fix it. So hopefully they read it. Maybe they'll reach out to me. We'll see. Maybe I'll be the CEO of the next ZipRecruiter.
Maybe I think you'd be better.
Yeah.
I think you'd be very well suited. Now, so Chris, I really appreciate you bringing me on. And for anyone listening and watching this, please do reach out to me. Would love if you have a job board. Would love talking about the job board industry. Obviously, we have a lot of experience in this industry itself. So if we can help your niche job board or your job board in general, would love to connect. Also, if you want to look at partnering with Resume Wallet in any way, as far as your backfill or high quality traffic that's verified, I would love to have that discussion as well.
Awesome. I will get a link out to the replay as soon as I know. I think I have the videos process on Zoom there, so I will send everybody a message. You can go watch the replay on demand. I guess that's it, Serge. I think we did it, man. Another job board con is in the books. We out, as they say.
We out. Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Later, bro.